Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the ASTROLABE, the #1 afternoon morning show on the internet, brought to you by King Pilled. And today is quite a day. The content is flowing. I got so much. It was hard to filter it all down, and I don't think there's any way we keep this under 2 hours. Hopefully we keep it under 3, because I've got other stuff I have to do today, but I want to bring you guys all this. And then tonight at 8 p.m. Central is the debate between Trump and Kamala. It is sure to be just an absolute shit show. I can't wait to see what happens. I have no predictions, not the foggiest clue how it's going to go, but I can't wait to watch it. And I'm going to live stream it in the King Pill Discord. I'm going to hop in the voice chat tonight. And just like I did with the Trump Elon conversation on X a few weeks back, I'm just going to sit there and listen, and I will share my screen and scroll through my timeline. You can see what my timeline looks like. I'll reply to some bangers that I see. I'll give you a little look behind the scenes. Everyone seemed to really enjoy that when I did it with the Trump Elon conversation. So I'll do that tonight. If you want to be a part of that, if you want to join in, if you want to chat with me and watch my timeline, hear my live takes on some of the stuff, then come join the King Pill Discord. Go to kingpill.com, sign up. Everyone in the Discord will have access to this stream. The voice chats are open to everyone. So if that's something you think you would enjoy, that's the place to go, kingpill.com. You can also send me a super chat or become a channel member here at YouTube. Become one of the King Pilled for $5 a month. Or you can go to Buy Me a Coffee and buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled. Send me a little bit of cheese. And anything you guys can do to support the show is very much appreciated. I appreciate you guys showing up here. The numbers are growing. It's good to see more and more people coming into our orbit. We're going to talk a little bit about our orbit and its effect later on today. But I appreciate you guys. Anything you could do to help me to keep doing this every day is very much appreciated. Suit and tie guy. Hey, I'm here for the live stream, packing up for after the synthesizer convention I put on. What on earth is a synthesizer convention? That I would is this a music thing? And then Thomas says he's not sniffing petrol from a can. Yes, I was listening to the Rama Rama song. If you're following me on Twitter at RealKingPilled, I was listening to the absolutely glorious, majestic banger produced, telling the Aboriginals in Australia to stop huffing gas. It's messing with their brains. There's that one, and then there's the Poodaloo song as well, which was a UNICEF production to tell Indians to stop shitting in the streets. Somehow they managed to crank out absolute bangers. It's incredible. Pleb Enforcement, what's up, man? He says, good evening from Spain. Do we have a Spaniard, or are you traveling in Spain? You don't have to answer that if that's too much doxing. But I'd like to go to Spain someday. Experience Barcelona. I've been to Europe, but I never made it down to Spain. All right. Let's jump into this here today. O2 Tom says, yesterday's stream was brilliant. Well, thank you, man. We're going to touch on a little more of the Haitian stuff here today. I got a couple more great memes and some interesting stuff going on with America First Legal. Yeah, I went rant mode yesterday. So talking about the Haitian issue and the betrayal of our people by our leadership. So if you want to get that, then go watch yesterday's stream. This clip just came across my timeline this morning while I was preparing, and this is just brilliant content. I'm an appreciator of good content. Like, I don't care who you are or what your motivations are. If the content is good, I'm going to appreciate it. So Mama T here is apparently not a fan. She says, I'm about to cuss. This is great.
Hi, my name is Hannah Lee, and I'm a farmer. Come pick some cotton with me. Now, I know what you're thinking. What on earth is she picking cotton for? If you wanted me to be quirky, I'd say it's in my DNA. But the truth of the matter is, it's in my household. And as someone who loves a cotton stuffed mattress and a cotton stuffed pillow, and I'm getting low on both, I had to go harvest some cotton. But look at how gorgeous it is out here. You cannot tell me I wasn't born to pick cotton. Anyway, all jokes aside, I have actually come to love the cotton picking process. I love my little bulbs, and I cannot wait for them to produce more cotton. Look how cute they are. Now, the fire ants were getting on to me, so I had to go. But there's something to the process of getting home and de-seeding them and stripping the cotton down. That's just so calming. I have my 3 buckets, one for soapy water, one for the seeds, and one for my freshly picked cotton. And this process is so relaxing. I'm serious. My husband is cute. He came and bought me coffee.
There it is.
We use freshly ground coffee beans from the farm, and let me tell you, it's the best coffee you will ever taste in your life. I love being a farmer. I think there's just something so incredible about getting back with nature. And speaking of nature, breastfeeding my child is going well. So props to all you moms who have breastfed. I'm at a year now, and I'm so excited because I'm about to be able to get pregnant again. And I'm ready for another little baby boy, Lord willing. I'm going to try to get to bed at a decent time because it is Saturday and I have to go worship the Lord tomorrow. But thanks for coming along with me, and enjoy your weekend.
Oh my God. You could teach an entire class on the way she put that whole thing together. So brilliantly designed to maximize engagement. She's got everybody mad with this one. Even the inclusion of little things like, I'm going to have another baby and hopefully I'm going to have another son. And then she's got a white husband, of course. She's got the big flowy gown. I think somebody called it out here in the chat. What do they say? She didn't have to wear a wade in the water dress. You cannot tell me I wasn't born to pick cotton. And then the Disney movie at the end. You know there's got to be a little handful of people out there who see this whole thing and they're like, oh, that's great. And then you get the Disney movie at the end and they're like, ah! Why are you playing Disney for your kids? You should be watching TV. They don't need screens. Oh, it is such amazing, amazing content. Another great, so that one was not AI. This one is. I've had this one sitting in here for a little bit looking for a time to drop it in, and it works well here. This guy says, this is the best AI video I've ever seen. It's Mad Max Muppets. Let me take you behind the scenes. So we'll set this up before I play it. The creator, Billionaire, on YouTube, used a combo of GPT-4o, Midjourney V5, and V6 to bring this to life. Picture this. Muppet war boys tearing through the desert. Kermit as a Morton Joe. Miss Piggy as Furiosa. Some of the image prompts. Film still of a Muppet as a Muppet war boy driving a modded car in the desert. Post-apocalyptic universe featuring Muppets as war boys in a dramatic, rugged setting. Cinematic film still depicts a pink Muppet warboy with fluffy fur, large eyes, and a cheerful expression driving on Fury Road. I've been experimenting with AI tools for months, but this is next level. It's not just the technical brilliance, it's the creativity to mash up two wildly different universes. I don't know about you, but I want to see less Mad Max Fury Road and more Mad Max Furry Road. Okay, well, I don't know about that. But for those of you aspiring filmmakers out there, we've talked before about the potential that's out there, and this is a great example of it. If you're an aspiring filmmaker, it's never been easier. You have the tools of an entire studio at your disposal for a micro fraction of the cost. It just means you got to do a little work, a lot of trial and error in a completely different domain. But check this out.
First we get the buzzards off her back!
Taking them! Where are they?
Oh man, it is so good. That soundtrack is amazing. Just demonetize the stream, probably playing that song, but it's totally worth it. Showing this to my son. Oh yeah, I gotta show this to my son. I don't know. He might be. I don't know. He's not really a nightmares type, I don't think, but he might still be a little young for stuff that's that creepy. But man, this is good. It reminds me of, I didn't plan on this, but I've been thinking about this for a while, and I decided to go look for it, and I found it. This is another one we played a few weeks ago. Very much worth playing again. I'll just play it. You'll get the gist.
I was there, Gandalf. I was there 3,000 cycles ago. Isildur snagged the chip. I was there the day the guts of Netrunners flatlined.
Even the tiniest hacker can change the future's code. The chip must be wiped. You must breach into Arasaka Tower to insert it back into the AI's core. The gig is yours, Frodo. If you can't pull it off, no one can.
You have my blade.
And you have my sniper.
And my hacks. The chip's activated. It's picked up its creator's signal.
It is in the Netrunners that we must place our hope.
The Nine have left Arasaka. They'll track down the chip and kill the one who carries it.
All this struggle for such a small chip.
They're taking the hackers to Arasaka.
The chip will try to hack your mind.
He suffered, Gandalf. He did.
Access denied!
Ah! See, it's rude to produce this and then make me just dream about what it would look like to have the entire series produced that way. I would watch the hell out of that. If somebody could produce an entire series adapted that way, delivered that way, even with it, like, even in its current form, where it's mostly just like kind of static pictures with a little bit of animation and voiceovers, I would still watch it. Oh, it's so good. Any of you out there, if you have the will or the know-how or the capacity to dive into this sort of thing, man, the entertainment, the brainwashing potential with something like that, taking some of these amazing stories and reproducing them in new ways where you could tell the same story, but you can deliver it to a new audience in a different way, or in some cases probably the same audience. This stuff is cool. I just hope that I hope the world persists so that we can keep digging these sorts of things out. We shared some of the memes yesterday. There's a couple more I got to share. 2025, President Trump rescuing vulnerable animals and luring immigrant hordes towards an ICE repatriation squad. Welcome to beautiful Ohio. I like how his tie looks like a hand. that's the thing with some of this AI stuff is the AI video content. Like, the fact that it has this uncanny valley effect, that it has these weird sorts of things, like in the last video or in the Muppets Mad Max one, you had like the 3 different vehicles, the little buggy and the truck and the motorcycle, they all combined into one vehicle and did weird stuff like that. Like that's not a hindrance to the mass appeal for this sort of thing. I don't know what it is. I know that I watch it, and the fact that it has this sort of fake uncanny valley feel, or that it does really weird, completely unrealistic things, it doesn't stop from the entertainment value. If anything, it almost adds another element. If people start becoming self-aware with this and incorporating that intentionally into it, that's just adds to the intrigue of it all. Yeah, Jihad Jason says it looks like a dream. Yeah, it does. Yeah, you're kind of experiencing the dream world while you're awake. There's some deep stuff going on here, I think. Here's another one. Indian Bronson's been on fire recently. I know there's people out there who they don't care for him too much, but I like him. I listened to him on the Moment of Zen podcast a couple weeks ago, and I enjoyed everything that I heard, and he posts bangers. Only one man can save America's cats from the Kamala cat killers. The Kamala cat killers. I hate the KKK. Look at this. Look at our champion. Saving the pussies. You hear them crying? They need us. The pussies need us. We must stand up for them. We must grab them. John Doyle's another just fantastic poster. Hello, MAGA moms. Hello, loyal MAGA patriots. Good morning. I love you, and you're doing a fantastic job. Donald Trump riding a gigantic duck. Isn't this like this? This needs to be a campaign poster. Trump campaign people out there, if anybody listening to this from the campaign or connected to the campaign, you guys need to have the Trump War Room tweet out an official campaign photo with this. It would be so good. Look at this. This is, I don't know what else to say. It's just fantastic. The meme magic is on a whole nother level in this election. And it's not just, Anons on 4chan posting stuff that sort of leaks out into containment. There's billionaires, there's politicians, elected officials, CEOs that are making and posting all of these. You all live in our world now. We're not trapped here with you. You're trapped here with us. So America First Legal, which there's a friend of a friend is part of it. They've been posting some very interesting stuff lately. And this is an interesting proxy for the Trump campaign and the influences around the Trump campaign that shows, if all of the public statements by the official Trump campaign officials and Trump himself saying that they're taking this immigration thing really seriously, if all of that isn't enough for you, then, I don't know why you need more. But America First Legal has a thread here on mass Haitian resettlement. The Biden-Harris admin is enacting a range of policies to promote the mass resettlement of hundreds of thousands of Haitian nationals into U.S. communities. Some headlines here. Fox News, Haitian migrant accused of molesting child is in U.S. via controversial Biden-Harris program. Akeem Mark Desire entered the U.S. under the Biden-Harris administration's controversial CHNB parole program. Notice this is under the heading, Illegal Immigrants. New York Post, Haitian immigrant charged with raping 15-year-old girl in migrant hotel. Revealed from the Daily Mail, Hermanio Joseph, 35, the migrant who caused Ohio school bus accident that killed 11-year-old Aiden Clark and injured 26 other students, was previously caught and released at U.S. border. This is 27 children's blood on the hands of those who facilitated this. Haitian migrant in Massachusetts is charged with raping a teenager. The suspect and the 15-year-old were both living in a hotel that currently serves as a migrant shelter. The charge comes amid heightened scrutiny over America's immigration policy, from the New York Times. Since fiscal year 2021, there have been 475,004 nationwide encounters with Haitians. In other words, nearly 500,000 Haitian nationals have been encountered by the Biden administration in less than 4 years. And it's not just that they have encountered that many Haitians on the border, but the Biden-Harris administration has invited them in on commercial flights into the United States. Since January of 2023, 205,000 Haitians have been granted parole under CHNV alone. CHNV parole processes on January 5, 2023, DHS announced processes providing certain Cubans, Haitians, and Nicaraguans who have a supporter in the United States undergo and clear robust security vetting and background checks, meet other eligibility criteria authorization to travel to the United States in a safe, orderly, and lawful way once they purchase their own commercial airline tickets. Oh, they have to purchase their own. Oh, okay. Well, I wonder who's giving them the money to purchase their own. Through the end of July 2024, over 520,000 Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans arrived lawfully on commercial flights and were granted parole under these processes. Specifically, 110,000 Cubans, 211,000 Haitians, 95,000 Nicaraguans, and 118,000 Venezuelans were vetted and authorized for travel. And 109,000 Cubans, 205,000 Haitians, 90,000 Nicaraguans, and 115,000 Venezuelans arrived lawfully and were granted parole. So there was 1,000 Cubans, 6,000 Haitians, 5,000 Nicaraguans, and 3,000 Venezuelans who were vetted and authorized for travel who did not yet arrive to be granted parole. Overwhelming majority already have. So this was between January 5 of 2023 and July of 2024, so a year and a half. The CHNV program flies these Haitians to the destination of their choice to stay forever. Then aliens are able to obtain work permits and ultimately claim public benefits such as Medicaid, food stamps, and welfare, depleting critical resources from American citizens. I can hear the libertarians, oh, these things shouldn't exist in the first place. Yeah, they shouldn't. They do. And while they do, like, this is an escalation beyond just have these welfare programs that incentivize bad behavior. Having them exist for Americans is one thing. Having them exist for the entire world is a whole different thing. And if the debate is the debate is not between having them at all and having them for the entire world. It just isn't. The debate is between having them for Americans and having them for the entire world. And if you want to plant your flag on that they shouldn't exist at all, hill, then you ensure that you get them for the entire world. Because that's not part of the conversation. It just isn't. You don't make it become part of the conversation by talking about it. Because nobody's listening to you. Nobody cares what you say. You're not going to actually convince Americans that there should be no social welfare programs. That's just never going to happen. If you are really intelligent and savvy about it right now, and you begin working at it, maybe in 100 years that might be part of the debate. If the United States even exists then. I don't think it will. I'm not saying America is going to fall. I think quite the opposite. I think we're at America is like a teenager, maybe. Adolescent. And we've still got a long life of America ahead, but the United States, as currently composed, is not long for this world. So if you were really savvy about it, you took a real like realpolitik approach to it, which libertarians are fundamentally incapable of, but let's just suspend disbelief here and say that the people who think there should be no social welfare programs whatsoever begin working on it in the most intelligent, effective way possible. Maybe in 100 years, that might become part of the conversation to begin moving in that direction. So what we have here is these social welfare programs exist for Americans, and they're being given to everyone else at the expense of Americans. That's the political debate. This is from Bill Melugin, who is from, I believe, L.A. Yeah, based in L.A. Guy's done a lot of work on immigration issue. He says, exclusive. Internal DHS data reveals the 45-plus U.S. cities that hundreds of thousands of migrants have flown into via the Biden administration's controversial CHNV mass parole program. The data was obtained by Homeland GOP via a subpoena to DHS and was provided to Fox News. The DHS data showed that during an 8-month stretch from January through August of 2023, roughly 200,000 migrants flew into the U.S. via the program, with 80% of them, or just under 162,000, arriving in the state of Florida in 4 cities: Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, and Tampa. The top 15 cities migrants flew into, and the numbers during this 8-month window are below. Miami, 92,000. Fort Lauderdale, 60,000. New York City, 15,000. Houston, 8,000. Orlando, 6,000. LA, 3,300. Tampa, 3,300. Dallas, 2,300. San Francisco, 2,000. Atlanta, 1,800. Newark, 1,500. DC, 1,500. Chicago, 500. Vegas, 500. Austin, 171. I've attached the raw DHS data provided in the subpoena response showing all of the locations the migrants flew into during these 8 months in the chart below. They also revealed in the subpoena process that as of October 2023, there was a backlog, about 1.6 million applicants waiting for DHS approval to fly to the U.S. via the parole program. In response to the DHS data revealing Florida received the overwhelming majority of migrant flights during the 8-month window, I wonder why. I wonder why Florida got the overwhelming majority of them. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' office provided Fox the following statement. Biden's parole program is unlawful and constitutes an abuse of constitutional authority. Florida is currently suing Biden to shut it down, and we believe that we will prevail. That's from Jeremy Redfern, the DeSantis press secretary. DHS also wrote in the subpoena response that all individuals paroled into the United States are, by definition, inadmissible, including those paroled under the CHNV processes. Congressman Mark Green, chairman of Homeland GOP, told Fox in response, quote, what they're essentially saying is that the laws passed by Congress have said that these people are inadmissible, and so they created a program to try to get around those laws. The thing is, they don't have the authority to create such a program. By their own admission, they're breaking the law. Reminder, the CHNV parole program created by the Biden admin in January of 2023 allows up to 30,000 migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela to bypass the southern border entirely and fly into the U.S. directly from foreign countries for a 2-year humanitarian parole grant if they have a sponsor in the U.S. and are vetted and approved for the travel. The flights are commercial and are not funded by taxpayers. The program recipient or their sponsor pays for it. Well, where did they get that money? Where do you think that money's coming from? What are the odds that these programs and these sponsors are themselves effectively federally funded? And the parole grant allows the recipient to apply to work. The Biden admin considers the program a lawful pathway. So they say it's illegal. We created a carve-out to make this illegal thing legal. And it's legal because we said it is. Okay, well, this is how it works now. We'll put a pin in that. We'll keep that in the back of our mind because this is how it works now. We just create a carve out and it's legal because we say it is. Do something about it. The Biden admin considers the program. Okay, I already read that. According to CBP data, at least 404,000 migrants have flown into the U.S. via the CHNV parole program since it first began. We read these numbers already. So far, legal challenges to this controversial parole program have failed in court. A Texas lawsuit was dismissed earlier this year after the judge ruled the state didn't have standing to sue. More lawsuits are pending. The Biden admin says the program is a lawful use of executive parole authority. They consider the program a success and believe it provides an incentive to not cross the U.S. border illegally. The numbers of Haitians cross the border illegally here in a way that we've arbitrarily said is legal, and then you don't have to do it illegally. This is word magic at its finest. The numbers of Haitians and Cubans crossing illegally have steeply fallen as a result of the program. Well, yeah, obviously. Am I going to go trek my way across the border physically? Or am I going to hop on a plane that somebody paid for me in my name and just fly into the airport and go set up at a hotel, get a debit card, get a cell phone? Critics say the program essentially waves a magic wand to mass import hundreds of thousands of otherwise inadmissible migrants into the U.S., with the likelihood of them ever leaving or being deported if they stay past the permitted parole grant being remarkably low. It's interesting seeing the like legacy press speak here, but in like the inverted way. So they're offering instead of leading with, critics of the project is, here's what the project is, here's what the critics say. Critics make obvious evaluation of the deleterious effects of the program. All of the sponsors should be held liable for any crimes committed by the sponsors. Correct. So how many Haitians do you, this is back to America First Legal, so how many Haitians do you think Biden and Harris have deported from the United States? Remember, encounters are at nearly 500,000 so far. They deported 2,800, meaning 99+% are all still here. For context, Ohio State University's Ohio Stadium holds 103,000 fans. You could fill it up almost 5 times with the number of Haitians who have been encountered or invited in during the Biden administration. It gets worse. On July 1, the Biden-Harris admin gave all of them temporary administrative amnesty, shielding hundreds of thousands more. The Biden-Harris admin gave all of them temporary administrative amnesty, shielding hundreds of thousands more from deportation until February 3 of 2026. Interesting. I wonder why they would need to do that. Why would they need to shield them until February of 2026 from deportation if they know that they're just going to be in control? Through this notice, the Department of Homeland Security announces that the Secretary of Homeland Security, I think we know who that guy is extending the designation of Haiti for temporary protected status and redesignating Haiti for temporary protective status until 18 months, beginning in August 4, 2024, and ending on February 3, 2026. This is kind of like them making moves to ensure that the Ukraine war persists for years, no matter how the election turns out. This extension and redesignation allows Haitian nationals and individuals having nationality who last habitually resided in Haiti, who have been continuously residing in the United States since June 3, 2024, and who have been continuously physically present in the United States since August 4, 2024, to apply or re-register for TPS. And you might say, the Haitians don't have any idea how to apply. They have sponsors, remember? This is one of the prerequisites for bringing them into the country. They have to pay for themselves. See, this is how we write the statute. Well, they have to have a sponsor and they have to pay for themselves. So it's not like we're just letting anybody in. No, it's Americans who are bringing them in. Well, who are those Americans? Who are those sponsors? Let's dig into their bank accounts. Let's study their connections and see who's sponsoring all these people in. Because I guarantee you, the people who are sponsoring them and ensuring that they're able to buy their own commercial plane ticket are also ensuring that they register for temporary protected status. This is how the grift works. Biden administration gives temporary protected status to 309,000 more Haitian migrants. Widespread gang violence continues in Haiti. Gee, I wonder where that widespread gang violence came from. If there's widespread gang violence in this country, why do I want to take the people who live in a country that sponsors widespread gang violence and bring them into mine where we already have a widespread gang violence problem? We don't just have you might say, the blue-collar gang violence. We have white-collar gang violence here as well. The deep state, I was thinking about this yesterday. The deep state is really just kind of a new name for organized crime. Organized crime has taken over the permanent bureaucracy. It's the mob. Heinous crimes committed include alleged molestation of a 10-year-old boy, alleged rape of a 15-year-old disabled girl, alleged crash into a school bus killing an 11-year-old. We don't have to live this way. This boy here, there's no reason he should be dead right now. He should be alive. He should be 12 now. Happy, thriving young man. Born into the greatest country in the world. Instead, he was on his way to school and he got killed. By a man who the authorities had hands on and released him into the country to go kill him. This is criminal behavior of the highest order. Everyone involved in this needs consequences. I don't know if I can say more than that. John LaFave. How many followers does he have? 114,000. Signed contracts with Goldman Sachs and Simon & Schuster and paid lawyers more than I made. NYT bestselling author of Straight to Hell. The fact that Haitian immigrants are eating pets in Ohio isn't even the worst part. The Biden-Harris administration has secretly flown in over 320,000 unvetted Haitian immigrants into the United States. Then in June of 2024, Mayorkas gave them special protective status to prevent them from being deported. This represents an influx of people, sadly, from an inferior culture, and they're bringing their third world values here. The average IQ in Haiti is approximately 78. Context: an IQ of at least 75 is required to be considered competent in a court of law. What's the old Carlin joke? About you consider that the average consider how stupid the average person is, and then realize that half the people are dumber than that. The average is 78. I think if you can even do this, I'm skeptical that you can even like do an IQ test for like a gorilla or a chimp. But the reported numbers are in like the 70s or 80s. Haiti is by far the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere with a GDP per capita of 1748. Maybe that's because they rose up in revolution, slaughtered in total bloodthirsty fashion, slaughtered all the white people on the island, and made a deal with a demon, offering their island over to that demon in return for help slaughtering all the white people. Maybe that's why their GDP is 1748. Haiti is the 20th most deadly country in the world with 40.9 homicides per 100,000. Haiti's education system is ranked 177th globally in terms of national spending on education with a literacy rate of 61%. Haiti has one of the highest prevalences of communicable diseases in the world and the highest STD and tuberculosis rates in the Western Hemisphere. Nearly 40% of Haitians practice some form of voodoo, which involves witchcraft and animal sacrifice. Again, when a country as an entire people explicitly makes a deal with a demon to grant them power over their domain, this is what happens. Shout out to Dark Enlightenment. He said, the Dominican Republic is nothing special. Their primary export is baseball players, and they want nothing to do with these people. Haiti is ranked lowest on the Human Development Index in the region of the Americas. In no way does this make our country better. They don't even make street tacos. So this poll, I bookmarked this yesterday with 5,000 votes on it. There's now over 19,000. And the results have skewed. It was like 85. It was like 85 and 3 and 1 and 1. So 85, 3, 1 and 1. When I bookmarked it 15,000 votes ago. So this is a pretty good sample. 20,000 votes. Brian Kaplan says, suppose everyone in Haiti would die unless the U.S. allowed their immigration. In this scenario, what fraction of Haitians should be allowed to come to the U.S.? Now, obviously, I, along with 90% of the other sane people, said 0 to 10%. And really, the way this should have been constructed is 0% and then 1% to 50, 51 to 90, and 91 to 100. Because I don't even want to imply that I would accept 1% of people. Knowing what I know of Haiti, and given the current state of our country, if everyone in Haiti is going to die unless the U.S. brings them in, oh well, people are going to die. It's not our responsibility to bring every single person on the planet into our country because they might die if they don't. People die. That's what happens. What's evil is making people die for no reason. And that's what happens when you bring people like Haitians into the United States, particularly en masse. I think these results are absolutely fascinating. The division is overwhelming majority wants none. And then a small minority wants all of them. All of them What's the population of Haiti? $12 million. These people are insane. Bring 12 million Haitians into the United States? Because here's the thing. When you bring them in, it's not like, oh, they just go integrate. They're not physically capable of integrating. They're just going to form little ghettos, be completely insular, and just begin marauding around the country. This is how you get a low-trust society, if we didn't already have one. Now that we have a low-trust society, bringing in people like this is how you get genocide. All right. Enough of that for now. Shout out to America First Legal. Austin Allred. In one of the most fascinating podcasts I've ever listened to, the members of NPR's This American Life got their testosterone levels tested. All right, NPR hosts testing their tea. All of the males had very low testosterone, some low enough doctors would recommend medication. And if doctors are recommending medication for low testosterone, you're like, that means you're a man who has the testosterone levels of like a 90-year-old woman. The most feeble people on the planet. And a trans guest talks about how taking testosterone made them suddenly interested in science. So here's some of the quotes. Alex Bloomberg, Ira Glass, okay. This squares. Alex Bloomberg says, what are the numbers exactly? What is it for, what's Rakoff? Rakoff is 274. You were at 144. I'm 104 something other. Sub 200. These are our enemies. Griffin Hansberry, something that happened after I started. So this is a woman pretending to be a man, started taking testosterone. Something that happened after I started taking testosterone, I became interested in science. I was never interested in science before. Alex Bloomberg, no way. Come on, are you serious? I'm serious. We need to recover science. We need to take it back. I said the other day we're going to be taking back California and dropping the communists in the Pacific. We're going to be doing the same thing to science. Because we need science. We're not going to let, I almost said a word I probably shouldn't have, SHEMALE. We're not letting them take over science. Here's an abstract. Use of exogenous testosterone apparently shifts Democrats into Republicans. We tested the fixity of political preferences of 136 healthy males during the 2011 U.S. presidential election season by administering synthetic testosterone or placebo to participants who had identified the strength of their political affiliation. So this is in the olden days. This is 13 years ago. Before the testosterone treatment, we found that weakly affiliated Democrats had a 19% higher basal testosterone than those who identified strongly with the party. When weakly affiliated Democrats received additional testosterone, the strength of their party fell by 12%, and they reported 45% warmer feelings towards Republican candidates for president. This is 2011, so this would have been like John McCain and Mitt Romney. Our results demonstrate that testosterone induces a redshift among weakly affiliated Democrats. This effect was associated with improved mood. The Libs are not just like the Libs being low T also means that they're just pissy and angry about their own lives. No effects were found of testosterone administration for strongly affiliated Democrats or strong or weak Republicans, which is interesting. So the strong or weak Republicans aren't really affected by it. It's the weakly affiliated Democrats. So it's like there's a point of no return. There's diminishing returns and there's a point of no return. So the strongly affiliated Democrats, nothing's going to happen. You can't do anything about them. Our findings provide evidence that neuroactive hormones affect political preferences. Under Project 2025, exogenous testosterone administration to all men is going to be required. All right. Now, hold on. I need to open another tab here because something dropped. during my pre-show smoke break, and I threw it in here. Okay, let me open that. Hit pause for now. And come back to this. And you know what? What I'm going to do while I'm waiting here is... Let me signal boost the show again. Get some more people in here. All right. Now, let's come back over. So the Libs have been running with this thing for a while now. That Melania is being held captive. That she hates Trump. Even people who know them, supposedly are close friends with them, are talking about how she can't stand him. Well, now Melania is finding her own voice.
Writing this memoir has been a deeply personal and reflective journey for me. As a private person who has often been the subject of public scrutiny and misrepresentation, I feel a responsibility to clarify the facts. I believe it is important to share my perspective, the truth.
Absolute Kino.
Writing this
Josiah became interested in objective reality, LMAO even. Yeah. Sean Whelan says, testosterone makes you curious about how the world works. Women aren't curious by nature. Yeah, so women are suspicious of the outside. Men are curious about the outside. So the men are responsible for going outside the domain of what's known and exploring what's unknown. And the women trust the men to take care of that domain while the women take care of the domain of the known. What has happened with so-called science, capital S science, is it has eliminated the unknown. We're not allowed to go into the unknown. And some of the unknown is actually known, but it's deemed unknown. We can't go out there. This is the perspective of a broken woman. This is the longhouse. Straight Buster says, the Lord has blessed us with enemies that are low-T retards, and you're blackpilling? Kate says she's the best first lady since Jackie Kennedy. We love our first lady, don't we, folks? This is aristocracy. This is what a woman looks like. Elegant. This is a woman for women to aspire to. We need those. I've got two more from her.
The 2020 election results changed our lives forever. It impacted our quality of life, cost of food, gasoline, safety, and even the geopolitical landscape. America is more divided today than ever before. It has become increasingly apparent that there are significant challenges to free speech, as demonstrated by the efforts to silence my husband.
And one more. Whoop, hold on. Stop, be quiet.
The attempt to end my husband's life was a horrible, distressing experience. Now, the silence around it feels heavy. I can't...
This is for a Slavic woman, this is emotional. She's expressing emotion here.
Help but wonder, why didn't law enforcement officials arrest the shooter before the speech? There is definitely more to this story, and we need to uncover the truth.
I don't know if you guys have seen this. I should have pulled it up here. I wonder if I could find it quickly. I think I can say Melania text. Melania text. Will it come up? No. So during the events of January 6th, I'm just saying all the words today that are gonna. I'm flirting with the edge. During the attempts of January, the events of January 6th, Melania's, I think it was her chief of staff or one of her advisors or whatever, texted her and said, do you want to issue a statement condemning violence and blah, 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 blah. Melania's response, no. The woman is loyal. You are out of your mind. Of course, the shit libs, being low T, broken women, as the men, they don't even know how reality works. They're literally not capable of interfacing with reality. So they look at Melania, and they think that she secretly hates him. No, she's a Slav. She very obviously is incredibly loyal. She adores the man. It's so obvious. But if you're a broken person, you're not capable of interfacing with reality and recognizing obvious things like that. Andrew says, every time I hear her, I think of my wife. Women in the East are much more stoic in their emotions than their Western counterparts. Yes. Very much so. So speaking of absolute Kino, the libs just continually give us our best propaganda. Look at this from the Atlantic. Look at this absolutely brilliant iconography. You've got Trump. He's put the GOP in prison behind him. He's hauling them along like a bunch of sad sacks, and he's whipping the Dems. He's traveling through a torn-up wasteland. He's not the one who did it. He's entering into this torn-up wasteland, and as he's arriving at the throne, the light is breaking through. It's so powerful. I stole the thunder from Walter here. He says, so Trump is winning, you're telling us. And he's probably unstoppable as there's no visible opposing force. No visible opposing force. And the parted waters before him mean heaven is with him. Oh, yeah. That's another one. The waters are parting in front of him. He has the mandate of heaven. And the light is set to break through when he arrives. Iconography. It's so good. I don't know if this is... There comes a point where even the most deranged opponent of reality can't help but recognize it. You can rail against it for as long as you want, but inevitably, you're going to come face to face with it. They're calling it as they see it. And as they see it, Trump is running unopposed with the mandate of heaven, bringing light into the darkness and dragging the GOP as he whips the Democrats. It's glorious. Oh, someone put laser eyes on the elephant? That's good. He says, I guess it only looks like parted waters on a phone screen. Blown up, it's a gully in the swamp. I don't know. It looks to me like it's parted waters. I think both of them work. Black horse, whip, and ominous sky are dark symbols. And he says, but light breaks on the horizon and the steed avidly hastens on. Wonderful. Okay. I told you guys yesterday that there's a conversation coming. Hit the like button for me, would you, folks? We got 131 watching and 38 likes. Let's get these numbers up. I told you there's a conversation coming between Jason and Stormy Waters. It's going to be dropping on Wednesday. And Jason very helpfully chopped up some teaser clips from it. We're going to watch them here. There's something like 17 or 18 minutes worth of clips that we're going to watch here because it's worth it. And that's still just a tiny fraction of the whole conversation. So here's the first one. Got to find the tab. Here it is. All right. A teaser from the epic conversation Stormy Waters and I had recently. Listen to Stormy explain how to cash in on far-right cultural real estate. Remember how we talked about Charlemagne's rant? About how we are the elite? Hold that in mind as we listen to this. I put it on 1.5 because we got a lot of clips to get through for the rest of the show here. So for those of you who listen, who like to 2x, like me, when Jason sent this to me, I listened to it on 2.3. Just blew right through it. I love my 2X brethren. So I'm going to do my best to just let the clips play and not talk as much as possible.
Actually, you should look at this like real estate, right? It's the most perfect analogy. And the least tortured, I guess, would be a better way to say it. If you look at influence as real estate, for a very long time, the far right, like our right, not conservatives, but where we are, have been in the ghetto, right? And everybody understands, gentrification. I live in Florida, South Florida, and the story of Wynwood is probably the most recent comparison to what's about to happen to the right, right? So if you are a, poster with tens of thousands of followers, that's real estate. You own a couple units, right? You own a couple, lots of land.
All right, I'll pull it down to 1.25.
You're a content creator, you own a city block.
Oh, volume's low too. Okay, hold on. Volume's maxed here. Volume on the clip is low, so let's pull it up over here. All right, I'm going to play it again. Let me know how it is.
Actually, you should look at this like real estate, all right? It's the most perfect analogy. And the least tortured, I guess, would be a better way to say it. If you look at influence as real estate, for a very long time, the far right, like our right, not conservatives, but where we are, have been in the ghetto, right? And everybody understands, gentrification. I live in Florida, South Florida, and the story of Wynwood is probably the most recent comparison to what's about to happen to the right, right? So if you are a, poster with tens of thousands of followers, that's real estate. You own a couple units, right? You own a couple, lots of land. You're a content creator, you own a city block, right? That's your influence. Big money, right? The culture is moving to Wynwood. Your little house that you couldn't, sell for $10,000 is now going to be worth several $1 million because the culture is moving to you, right? So however many eyeballs you have on you now, you should be trying to get as many more on you as possible because the trend is moving in your direction, right? So if you have a voice, if you have visibility, right, your influence is about to grow substantially because the rest of the country, the rest of the world is coming to where you are. Slowly, drips and drops, but they're coming. So you want to own as much real estate as possible, right? You want to have as much influence as possible to let the wave, pick your little boat up and you can ride it into shore, right? All those old institutions are gone. All those old influencers, the news people, right? The celebrities, they're dead. Nobody gives a fuck what The Rock is doing. Nobody cares. I mean, Taylor Swift, maybe, I don't know, for the Floyds, I guess, but that's it. So if the culture's moving this way, the next people, right, the next celebrities, the next influencers, the next, Walter Cronkite is going to come out of our sphere. So you want to be as visible as possible. You want to dominate as much area of influence as possible. You want to carve out your niche, and you need to carve it out quick because competition's about to get real fucking steep.
For those of you who don't know who Stormy is, he goes into his bio just a little bit in the full episode, but he is a GP at a prominent VC firm. He has connections. He knows he's not just looking at what we're looking at. He's looking at what we're looking at, and he's also looking at stuff behind the scenes that he's privy to because of his industry and the connections that he's made. When he speaks, you got to listen. So here's the long clip. Jason says, my new friend Stormy Waters and I recorded a chat yesterday. I believe it's one of the most important conversations I've ever had, both because of the information shared and the conceptual shakeup it should have on folks who want to build. We're builders. We must build. Here's the first teaser where Stormy explains the billionaire mindset. So to set this up just a little bit, when I started doing the dig into the PayPal mafia several months ago, I was bringing to the table an awareness of this culture. The people who call themselves like the Gray Tribe or broadly like entrepreneur, self-improvement, that whole sphere of influencers. I've been aware of them for several years now, followed them because of other pursuits in my life. They're generally non-political. Like they're normie politically, but they're not really concerned about the political sphere by nature. They're concerned about competency and achievement and innovation and exploring the universe. They have a very, almost a childlike exuberance about the world. They love to be motivated. They love to learn little hacks to make yourself more efficient, more productive, to be more in tune with reality. They have a natural lust for the truth. So I was already kind of aware of this cultural milieu and started recognizing how many of these prominent thinkers, or not prominent thinkers, how many of these prominent businessmen, investors, founders, how many of them are actually, they have that mindset. And so then it was just a matter of starting to connect the dots, looking at some of the things they're tweeting and talking about, the interviews they're giving, the subjects they're choosing to talk about versus the ones they aren't, the statements that they're making that kind of signal about deeper stuff going on. He's going to describe here why these men are inclined this way. And everyone's naturally cynical about them, and they'll go find, oh, look at this guy like Mark Andreessen. He's donated to Democrats and Republicans his entire life. He was on good terms. He donated to and endorsed Hillary Clinton. But Stormy's going to explain why it's not proper to take our mentality and impose it upon them, to assume that they're radical ideologues, because they're not. But that's a feature, not a bug. Demanding that they become radical ideologues, but radically ideologically committed to your perspective, is actually asking them to become worse. Their lack of ideological compulsion is actually a feature.
Part of this understanding the narrative, I think people get into, well, I know people get into this sort of movie, or I call it Saturday morning cartoon logic, where they just look at someone and they say, well, billionaires, and they think people living in, gold houses, or, with Scrooge McDuck just, jumping in gold coins in a vault or something like that. And it's like, that's just not how it works. And also that people try to almost dehumanize these people. Like, billionaires are existing in a much different life or lifestyle, or having much different concerns than myself and most people that I know. But they're still human beings, and they're still subject to the rules of this reality. And
they're allowed to have epiphanies.
Right. And they're allowed to be.
That's it right there. They're allowed to have epiphanies. Don't be so cynical to think that these men aren't capable of having epiphanies. I had the day that JD Vance was announced was easily the most interactions I've ever gotten on Twitter in my life. I had almost 500,000 impressions that day. Never come close to it since then. Probably never will again. But one of the things that I was thinking about that day, and that I pointed out and said to a lot of people, is this is, you've got like, one of the tweets I had was, I said, guy who voted for Bernie Sanders in 2020 is posting, JD Vance is a snake. He was never Trump in 2015. Many of these guys have come along the exact same trajectory that we have. I guarantee you, the overwhelming majority of the people in this live chat who will listen to this later on, the overwhelming majority of people within our sphere of the internet do not have the political beliefs and perspective that they have now. They haven't had that their whole life. It's something that's evolved and emerged iteratively over the past 4 to 8 years, approximately. This isn't just something that happened with the plebs. This has happened with the elites as well, to one degree or another. And in many ways, it's been much more pronounced for them because they're much more personally affected by this, as Stormy goes into here.
Allowed to have blinders on. They're allowed to make mistakes. They're allowed to not be, Machiavellians and scheming across the globe and having pretty easy to understand motivations when you really come down to it. They're as complicated as as you and I, and also as uncomplicated as you and I in many ways.
The one difference between them and regular people is I was telling a mutual friend of ours, Pete Quinone, is information in my world, and the same in hedge funds and private equity, is a weapon system. As in, these guys, they don't get set in ideas, right? They go to where the new ideas are. These guys they're very comfortable changing their entire paradigm, right? If everybody in the room thinks like X, Y, and Z, right, and has done for some time, they are completely fine with dropping their entire worldview and picking up a different one in an instant. The second it looks like this yields a more accurate tautology of what's happening. Right? These people are never the people they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They will rapidly iterate how their preconceptions of how the world works. Right? They will move their first principles so much more than the average person. All right, who gets embedded into ideas and idea systems, right? Ideologies. That just basically means, like, if this is, a game of battleships, and not like the board game, but like, let's just say like naval warfare, and you can't move anymore. You're dead. Right? And information is an advantage, a tremendous advantage. So the one thing that the right has going for it is twofold. One, it's where the truth lives. Because the truth has been distorted for so long, a lot of people used to think that the truth came from academia. COVID changed that for everyone, regardless of wealth. I know billionaires that took the vaccine and got boosted. Do you know how angry they are? Right? These people will spend hundreds of millions of dollars to add, weeks or months onto their life. Do you know how angry they are? Like,
I never even considered this possibility until I heard Stormy say this. You've got the life extension guys, which is a huge thing among the whole Grey Tribe thing, because they all have this. People focus on the transhumanism and they don't recognize the spirit motivating the transhumanism, which is a pathological love for humanity. Now that love for humanity gets subverted, because this is how demons work. They're going to take this good thing and they're going to subvert it and turn it into the thing that takes you down. They're rather clever. They weren't born yesterday. They've got thousands and thousands of years of working with humans, knowing how humans are wired and knowing exactly how to get us. The transhumanists in the Grey Tribe are split into broadly two categories. There's the category of people who are transhumanists because they are disgusted with humanity and they want to destroy humanity. And then there's the people who are transhumanists because they love humanity and they're in love with the potential of humanity. It's like they have a latent sense, a yearning for theosis, and they think that their responsibility is to engineer that theosis. But it's fundamentally coming from a place where they love humanity. They want to see humanity be great, to traverse the stars, to conquer death. It's like C.S. Lewis said, if I find within me a yearning for another world, it implies to me that perhaps I wasn't just created for this world. That's the sense that they have. And for lack of knowing better, they want to parlay that sense into innovation to maximize and expand the human species. So you don't have to be a transhumanist to appreciate that some of these transhumanists are not fundamentally anti-human. They're fundamentally extremely pro-human. So if you're a pro-human billionaire who's very invested in the notion of maximizing the human species, extending lifespans, so you can enjoy more and more of life. You don't want to let go of life. You want more of it. And then the academics who you'd offloaded some of your wisdom creating or wisdom establishing power to, you learn they betrayed you. They actually duped you. You've spent millions of your own dollars figuring out how to extend your own lifespan so you could do more and more and more. And then you learn these people you trusted, duped you into doing something that very likely shortened it, and maybe shortened it drastically. Not only did they take millions and millions of dollars from you, which would be angering enough, they took your own life away from you. If you think that that would be impactful to you as a pleb who hasn't sunk millions of dollars into this project, imagine how it would impact you as a billionaire who's doing big shit, who has massive visions for the future and just wants people to get out of the way and let you pursue those visions. The grillionaires who just want to grill. And then you learn that you were subverted and tricked into something like this by evil people. That's not something that just goes away. That's not something that a person who has the influence and the capacity to change things that a billionaire has is not just going to shrug that off.
So much more angry than just a regular person who took the vaccine, because, you know, regular people are used to having externalities affect them that they can't control, right? Being at the mercy of something else. Billionaires don't. So when that happens...
Sorry, I want to get some of these comments before they get too far down here. Andrew says, my lobbyist uncle used to say his ideology was the party of the appropriation committee, very close to Gray Tribe mindset. Yes, right. This is why they'll donate to and endorse Democrats, because they talk to those Democrats and they say, hey, here's a thing that I want. Will you give me this very important thing that I want? And the Democrat says, yeah, you get me elected and I'll give you that very important thing I want. They're like, okay, I'm pro-Democrat. But if the Democrats stop giving them the things that they want, they're very happy to be Republican. They want to work with whoever will work with them. And then there was another one down here. Sean Whelan says, the far left today used to criticize the California ideology as reactionary modernism. Guys like Steve Jobs were natsock according to the academic left. Yes. This is like a little niche thing that was happening in tech circles and stuff that most people weren't paying attention to because it was sort of a fringe thing going on in the US. I mean, prior to the 90s, tech wasn't even a thing. You wouldn't like what? The toaster makers, you know, they didn't have power. But once tech became a thing, which is really a product of the internet, and then social media, and then AI building iteratively on top of each other, suddenly these little California debates have become the entire country. Josiah says, engineers find solutions, not problems at macro level. They are in part listening to online write as a voice in a distributed product management role. Yes, this is exactly how to think about this. I'm going to play you some clips of Elon here in a little bit on the All In podcast. And he's comparing, so he's coming from the sort of normie political perspective where you have capitalism versus socialism, which I'll remind you, all of us 4 to 8 years ago were ourselves working through this whole thing. If you're here, you probably came from the I'm capitalist and anti-socialist perspective. There are some. I notice Thomas Queries here says he was a leftist Antifa type of guy up until 2016. Seeing how Trump was treated unfairly caused a pang of conscience for me. But either way, the way Elon is describing it, I can't remember if it's in the clip that I'm going to play for you, but you should definitely go listen to the whole conversation. He's describing it as operating systems. The capitalist operating system versus the socialist operating system. And this is within the context of the Department of Government Efficiency. This is the way that they're looking at this. These are founders, engineers, startup guys who have set their mind now to engineering a better government and treating it as a startup they have founder responsibility in it. That's the perspective that they're bringing to bear. And this is a banger. I'm going to use this, Melon. I'll give you credit for it. I'm going to use this. It almost sounds like Billionaire Gamergate in a way. Now they might spend their whole lives destroying this thing. That's exactly what it is. Billionaire Gamergate. COVID was Billionaire Gamergate. Really, it's more like 2020 to 2024. But it really started with COVID. And Josiah says, machine is end of man versus machines can take man to the heavens. Right, yes. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I think the life extension stuff, generally speaking, I'm very squeamish about it. However, this isn't just throw it all out, because healing disease is life extension. This is a Christian responsibility. To heal your own diseases and help others heal theirs. So where do you draw the line between healing disease and life extension, per se? So just because somebody is deeply invested in life extension, that doesn't ipso facto make him an evil transhumanist. You don't have to be transhumanist sympathetic to be able to make these sorts of distinctions. You probably just have to have a sufficiently high IQ. Andrew says, didn't Mark Andreessen as much as say this? He was surprised by how friendly the GOP reps were to him and by how hostile the Dems were. Yeah, I can't say it enough. Go listen to the Little Tech Agenda podcast episode between Mark Andreessen and Ben Horowitz. All right, I'm going to keep this playing. You guys are jamming in the comments, and I love it.
To them, it's extremely jarring, and they are extremely they're vindictive in a way that right now is a positive for us. But the second thing that the right has going for it is that it's not just true information, it has new ideas, right? Even though they're not new, right? They're not new to us, and they're not new to, the world. They've just been kind of hidden for a very long time. But these guys go where the new ideas are because they have to, right? If I know something before you know something, that means I have an advantage over you. That means I get to trade against you. And the information asymmetry hurts you and benefits me. So I'm going to try and collect as much of that as possible. I want to have as much information asymmetry as humanly possible. So everybody has this conception that, like, these guys are stuck in whatever worldview that they may have expressed in an interview, a decade ago. That's not the case. They probably changed the entire way they looked at the world, half a dozen times between then and now, because that's the only way they stay alive, right? Like let's say, a good friend of mine, I won't say his name, but he's a hedge fund manager and now is in BC. All right. This guy was one of the most successful hedge fund managers in the entire world. And he started as a Gentile and started off with a hot dog cart, right? That was everything he had. He inherited a hot dog cart, right? A white dude, not an immigrant, but apparently the hot dog cart system is a little bit like the New York City taxi cab medallion system. Mm-hmm. So kind of a bit of a racket, and just having like the ability to have a hot dog cart is a lot like, the ability to have a taxi cab, which I think that the going rate on taxi cab medallions before Uber was like $1.25 million per cab, but now is significantly less. So a hot dog cart in 1980s money was worth about $60,000 to have, basically the permission slip from New York State. So he inherited one, and he dropped out of college early, maxed out all of his credit cards, and sold his hot dog cart. And he had collectively about $110,000 in 1980s money. It was every single dollar that he had to his name, and he started trading it, right? And bet on himself. And within 5 years, he was worth $250 million. So it's 1990s now, right? Which should be worth roughly about $1.7 billion today. Mm-hmm. Right? He traded for another 20 years. It's worth about $14 billion. Now, well, on the books anyways. And then he just wakes up one day, looks at the stock market and goes, there's nothing new here. This is all going, basically, I'm seeing peak innovation, right? There is no returns here anymore. We're just moving money around from point A to point B. There's no alpha. So he literally wound up his hedge fund, one of the 5 most successful hedge funds in the history of Wall Street, and shut it down, gave all the investors their money back, and started investing in startups. Like, these people will change everything about themselves, will move, whole industries when they see, asymmetry. It's part of who they are. So not only will they change their entire careers, right? Going from hedge fund manager, doesn't know fuck all about VC, is one of the most successful hedge fund managers in the world, right? He could have continued doing what he was doing, making, decent returns, having endless, pension funds to, fill his LP, a limited partnership, right? There's the general partner on one side, and then there's the limited partner on the other, right? The limited partners, right? So if I have a hedge fund or a venture fund, whatever, with a hedge fund, it's like 2 and 98. But in VC, it's usually like 10 and 90 or 20-80. So like 10% my money and 90% outside investors' money. Hedge funds, it's much smaller because the amounts are much larger. So he literally just handed everybody back. I think his hedge fund at the time was $70-80 billion, and just called all the investors and said, "Hey, I'm sending you your money back. I'm closing up shop for good." And we're like, "Oh, are you retiring?" Like, "No, I'm going to go try something entirely different." And that's why he's worth that much money. And you can apply that. You can paint all of these men with that brush.
Help may come from unexpected places. Indeed. Okay, last Stormy clip. And then we'll get into some more. Let's see, what do I have next? So this is about befriending a boomer, and then I've got a story about a boomer. And then we're going to get into the All-In podcast, Elon sort of things. So if you did as you were told, and you went and you listened to the conversation between Jason and Meta Prime and I that we had on Saturday, one of the things we talked about was redeeming the boomers. And I read a long thread yesterday from Vagrant Wires talking about redeeming the boomers. And we talked about going and befriending a boomer. The boomers have much to give. Stormy speaks to that here.
Now, if you have guys that are asking, like, what do you do with boomers? I'll give you a clip, and it'll be how I got to where I am. Right? How I got to where I am was because I was the guy that looked around, found the powerful boomers, right? Guys that were legends, right? Who accomplished real things, right? Amazing things, whose kids didn't give a fuck what dad did for work, right? They didn't care, right? They just wanted their credit card, right? They wanted this paid for, that paid for, right? You have a guy that'll be like, let's say, for instance, there's one that comes to mind, and he is literally the most successful options trader in the history of tradable securities, right? So since the 1700s, nobody has fucking traded better than this guy. He's a legend. And his kids don't give a fuck about him personally or what he does at work, right? That guy doesn't get to tell his stories to his sons. His sons don't give a shit. He doesn't get to pass on his relationships, right? This massive network that he's built up with people that actually run shit, right? Because his kids don't care. His kids have fucking art degrees and basically do nothing, right? So who is that guy going to pass on these relationships to? Because if he doesn't, they die when he dies, right? So I was the guy that wanted to hear that man's stories, and a dozen other boomers, many dozens of other boomers. I wanted to hear their stories. I wanted to hear how they did this and how they, pulled this, deal out of the toilet, pulled victory out of the jaws of defeat, got this merger done. I wanted to hear those stories. Did I really want to hear those stories? Not as much as I may have let on, but I'm really glad I did hear those stories. And now I'm in my mid-30s, and I can pick up the phone and have a senator answer my fucking phone calls. I didn't do the work to do that. I got introduced to that person by a person who did do the work. And then that fucking spineless politician knows that if he's mean to me, then that guy's going to be sad and mad at him, right? Because I was the one that listened to his stories, right? I'm the son that this guy, thought he was going to have, right? I call guys when I call if something really goes my way and I knock something out of the park, I have a dozen boomers I call that couldn't be fucking more excited. They're more excited than I am excited. Because A, they're proud, and B, in some varying capacity, They played a part in that. These men are interested in my career development. They want to see me successful because they don't have anybody else to do that with. And this is the biggest problem. When these fucking people die, their relationships, right? So their human capital, their physical capital, right? Their business, the relationships that their business had with suppliers, with distributors, like all of this stuff goes away when they're gone. Their kids don't give a shit, right? Maybe the credit card bills will get paid by the trust, whatever. But that person is worth a tremendous amount, right? So the whole dialogue in our spheres about boomers is wrong. Like, they are too dumb, yes, to understand politics, because they lived at a time where politics just fucking worked and you didn't have to pay attention. Only now is politics trying to literally ruin our future, and we have to pay attention to it. So you can't really fault them for not knowing anything about politics, because you wouldn't want to know anything about politics if you didn't have to. Right? These people just cared about success. So if everybody in our scene is, bitching about how little success they have in life, well, go take it from the people that have it.
Yeah, there's the clip.
Ian Carroll says, boomers want the good old days for all the young people. We just have to let them help. This is the perspective is such a big thing. The way you choose to frame an issue to yourself is so important for your own effectiveness and success. Because you can look at the degeneracy of the boomers. And this is I think part of us redeeming the boomers, coming full circle on them. You can look at their degeneracy and their lack of investment in their own children. Their like the thing he's describing here, where you have this wildly successful boomer and his kids don't give a shit about him. That relationship is permanently tainted. And yes, that you can look at this generational fracturing that has happened, and you could just bemoan it. Because it's worth bemoaning. It's a tragedy. It's catastrophic. And yet at the same time, the flip side of this means there's a whole bunch of potential patrons out there. If you grew up without a father, or your father just that doesn't have much tangible to offer to you, you can get a surrogate father. There's a huge market of surrogate fathers out there. Like, this is the natural corollary to the idea that the boomers have both accumulated disproportionately massive wealth, and they've sat on it, and they don't know how to invest it. They're terrible at investing it. They spend it on all the wrong things, and also they have no relationship with their children. This is a reality, and you could stop there and then just say, oh, well, everything sucks now and it's the boomers' fault. Or you could see the corollary to it, which is there's a bunch of wealthy boomers looking for surrogate children. That money, those connections, that wealth, that capital, it has to go somewhere. Everything is moving toward us now. The culture is driving toward us, as he said in the first clip. Which means we are uniquely positioned to be the recipients of that capital distribution. But it's not just going to happen naturally. And this is where a lot of the boomer antipathy is really motivated by shitlibbery. Oh, our children, we as children should be naturally granted this from our parents. Inheritance, here's all the good things about inheritance and why inheritance should be protected and blah, 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 blah. It should be naturally passed down to us by dint of our birth. And because we were born here and don't have any patrons, and the previous generations aren't passing anything to us, I will be mad. That's resentment. That's shitlibbery. The proper right-wing perspective on this, the Christian perspective, but I repeat myself, is these people were themselves misled and victimized by generations before that. In the same way that we have been, we've suffered under this dysgenic generational relationship, so did they, in their own way. They weren't like born into the world It's not like because you were a boomer, you were born into the world, and you should just naturally know how all of this stuff works. No, they're figuring their way out through it as well, and they have massive generational flaws. But those generational flaws themselves, when you have the right framing, the right mindset, that those generational flaws become a boon to us. Because now we no longer have to be restricted to just generational inheritance through blood. We could take advantage of the reality that broke down. It creates this potential alternative structure. I wanted to highlight something here. Andrew said, scrolling up, man, you guys are chatty today. Right here, he says, sin artificially aged people at the biological level. Every sin is literally a small death biologically. I view the entire field, the life extension field, broadly as a big boon for us. The longer our guys live, the more wealth and power they can amass. And I agree with that. I'll play devil's advocate to it. The longer our guys live, the more wealth and power they can amass, which means the more surface area for evil to grab hold of them and drag them down. This is the trade-off. This is why death, physical death, was a mercy granted to us by God. Because living longer is not per se a boon. It's what you do with that longer life. In the Orthodox Church, we say many years to someone. When a baby is born, a baptism, a birthday, we say many years. So what many years means is, may God grant you many years for repenting. Being able to live longer does correspond with accumulating wealth and power, and there are good reasons to have that wealth and power. But it's a dangerous game, because that's that much more time for you to fall off the path, for you to accumulate a load of sin that you have not repented for. So it's a sword that cuts both ways. Okay, let's continue. So speaking of boomers, I don't know if this guy's a boomer, but he's got this is like a boomer stereotype here. Daniel Priestley says, yesterday I showed a guy ChatGPT. His mind was blown. He works in a senior role at a large consulting firm. The big bosses have banned them all from using it. They think they're going to develop their own internal LLM. LOL. This firm gets paid £6,000 per person per day to advise government and other big businesses. I showed this guy how easy it is to replicate the work produced by the consulting firm. Act as a consultant with XXX and produce a discussion document on how the UK government should transition towards renewable energy. Include a step-by-step roadmap. Use lots of corporate jargon to justify the high consulting fees. He watched it bang out a response in 5 seconds flat. His eyes bulged. And this is available now? This is free? Anyone can download this? He genuinely had no idea it was possible. These big firms are sitting ducks. It's not going to be the blue-collar guys that get evolved out by AI. It's going to happen to them as well, but not nearly as much or as quickly as it's going to happen to the white-collar guys. Which means the people who, in this domain, who take advantage of these sorts of tools can leverage themselves up the hierarchy very quickly. It's like, I heard one person describe this as these AI tools can be like a 25-point IQ boost for the people who use them properly. So within your industry, if you know how to use these AI tools, then it's like giving yourself an IQ upgrade relative to everyone else. And this is the optimistic take on AI in the long run, is that it's essentially, as it proliferates, it essentially is an IQ booster for everyone. I think that's a little pie in the sky, but I think there's directional accuracy to it. So maybe this is the way that you get in with the boomer. The boomer who has no idea how this newfangled gadgetry works. Go become friends with him. Find out what sorts of problems he has. Don't come to him with your solution, before knowing what his problems are from his perspective. If you come to him with a solution, you say, hey, you have this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem, and here's the solution, and you need to take it. These guys are getting sold to constantly. Everyone thinks they have problems, and everyone has the best solution to it, so you don't stand out from the crowd. But if you go and you just put in the time with him for free, let him talk. He wants to talk. Let him describe to you what his problems are. And then you use the tools at your disposal to solve his problems for free. Give it to him on the house. Make him become indebted to you. And once he does, then you can present your solutions to what you think are his problems, once he already trusts you. Ian Carroll says the cognitive offloading was more efficiency. Yes. All right, so I'm going to play the stuff from the All In podcast here shortly, but I got a couple other little things that are topical. Mark Andreessen tweeted this a couple of days. The political compass. Lower right, Peter Thiel. Upper right, Mitch Moldbug, Curtis Yarvin. Upper left, Alex Karp. Lower left, Eric Weinstein. This is content that was crafted in a lab to appeal to me. And it turns out that Mark Andreessen appreciates it too. One of us, one of us, one of us. So I haven't heard Peter Thiel on the All In podcast yet. They didn't cut it up helpfully to me, and I haven't sat and listened through the entire thing. But someone there says, Peter Thiel coming out screaming. First 5 minutes, election theft, sleepwalking into war with Russia. Trump will win by a big margin. This is an interesting little blip here. Peter Thiel believes Trump will win by a big margin. Interesting. I'm gonna have to go listen to the whole thing. Hopefully, they're going to chop it up. So far, I've just seen the Elon and the JD Vance one. So once the Peter Thiel one comes out, then I'm sure we're gonna get some clips from that I'll share in here as well. So here's Elon years ago. Look how young he looks, and yet how old still. This was when he was deep in his grind. I think he probably still is, but he's become more adapted to it. This guy said, the votary, Grunt Paw, says, I think it was this video that made me like Elon Musk more personally. This just wasn't faked. Here's Elon's sensitive young man arc.
You know, there are American heroes who don't like this idea. Neil Armstrong, Gene Cernan have both testified against commercial spaceflight and the way that you're developing it, and I wonder what you think of that.
I was very sad to see that, because those guys are, those guys are heroes of mine, so it's really tough. I wish they would come and visit and see the hardware that we're doing here. And I think that would change their mind.
They inspired you to do this, didn't they?
Yes.
And to see them casting stones in your direction.
It's difficult.
Did you expect them to cheer you on?
So they're hoping they would.
What are you trying to prove to them?
What I'm trying to do is to make a significant difference in spaceflight and help make spaceflight accessible to almost anyone. And I would hope for as much support in that direction as we can receive.
So think about the Mark Andreessen, Ben Horowitz talking about the way that things shifted all of a sudden. They went from being able to talk to Democrats and relate to them and actually have them give a shit to suddenly just blocked off, just nothing. There's a similar thing here with Elon. He has this vision of massively optimizing humanity, getting to the stars, going to Mars, transcending our planet. The greatest, majestic, heroic dreams imaginable. And then he's spit on like this. Then they come for his family. This shit is personal. You could see the heart and the passion behind where he is, his mentality, his motivations. Elon nowadays would AI generate a meme dunking on them. Yeah, right. he's gone through his sensitive young man arc, and now he is set on revenge. Drunk Plato says, one of my favorite things about Elon is the long pauses he gives after being asked a question. Puts careful thought into everything he says. Yes, he does. He had a couple of them in the All In podcast that he sat there and kind of stared at the ceiling and thought for a little bit. His public speaking has also gotten a lot better too. Ryan Isaac says, this is pre-Gen X effort for Elon. Yeah. Okay, so hold on. Let me check my other tabs that I've got open here. Okay, so we got some Kamala Harris stuff lead in for the debate. And then, let's see. Yeah, all right. So we'll do the All-In podcast clips now. So first of all, we got to watch the very beginning because their intro was so good. Oh, hold on. I don't want that to be fast. Oh, come on. Play. I broke it. Here we go.
After buying Twitter for $44 billion, Musk's time as CEO has been a whirlwind. Shares of Musk's other major company, Tesla, have plummeted more than 30% since he took over Twitter. As is often the case, his next move is unclear.
I go as far to say that he's demonstrating some erratic behavior.
Go fuck yourself. Is that fair? I hope it is. Hey, Bob, if you're in the audience.
Elon Musk's cooperation and/or relationships with other countries is worthy of being looked at.
The Biden administration has just announced its second investigation into Elon Musk in less than a week.
Both the Tesla and SpaceX, there's a product roadmap that they're on, and that whether Elon is in the building or not is not going to impact the plan that they have.
People said he'd never get the rocket in space. He did that. People said the Roadster would never get delivered. He did that. People said he'd never get 100 of them done. He's got 200 done. As an entrepreneur, you can't listen to the noise. And you certainly can't listen to losers who have never accomplished anything with their life who are obsessing about you. Please.
We're out there among the stars, and we're a multi-planet species across many planets and many star systems. This is a great future, and that's what we should strive for.
Twitter customer support at your service.
Nearly every VC I speak with, every CEO, is looking to Elon's behavior and saying that's a model for how you can challenge your team to achieve the impossible in an impossibly difficult environment.
And you can see those grid fins on your left-hand screen rotating and turning to guide the booster, and there's that landing burn! Landing burn just begun, and you can see the water below, and we have splashdown! What an incredible sight!
He's just a visionary like I've never seen.
How on earth would you bet against him?
Elon seems to be on track to be not only the world's richest man, but the world's first trillionaire.
Elon basically has had, over the last 10 or 15 years, an incredible amount of challenges that he's overcome. Probably had to deal with stuff that most of us would have broken under. And he just fought through it. And the guy just basically bended all the haters until he crushed their souls. And I just think that that's incredible.
Elon Musk! Hey guys.
Got my stuff. I'm gonna take this.
All right. Thanks for taking the time.
Man, that is You know, we talked about the 90s California ideology people and their heroic visions of the future and then feeling like they've been waylaid. We spent the last 20 plus years on bullshit while missing out on the advancements and stuff that we could have had. I think that's part of why this hits so hard, is we've been deprived of this sort of propaganda for the better part of a decade, maybe more. Glorying in the pioneering American spirit, becoming masters of innovation, conquering the universe. This sort of indomitable masculine energy. We've been deprived of that. I think most people don't even realize it. They don't realize how inured they've become to this depressing gray world. And ironically, it's the gray tribe guys who are bringing color back into the world. You see this sort of thing, and it just lifts your spirits. It makes me want to just go jump on the roof and scream. It's beautiful. All right, let's get into this. So, you see the battle of free speech, potential government efficiency agency, SpaceX updates, overreaching regulations, thoughts on Boeing's culture, the 80-20 AI future, and then Elon and Jason share an unaired SNL skit. So, I encourage you to go listen to the whole thing. We're going to play this little segment here on the Department of Government Efficiency and then the segment on the SNL skit that was unaired. And I'm going to kind of only show part of the video here just because I know they've posted this on YouTube, so I don't know if they're going to get it taken down or something while I'm playing it, but you'll at least get the audio of it. And I'll try to give as much of the picture as I can. All right, it's not going to do it for me, so 13 minutes. All right. Speed this up a wee.
So we had JD Vance here this morning. He did a great job. And you know, one of the things is there's this image on X of like basically like you, Bobby, Trump, and JD are like the Avengers, I guess. And then there's another meme where you're in front of a desk where it says DOGE, the Department of Governmental Efficiency.
Yes, I posted that one.
Tell us about
I made it using Grok, the Grok image generator. and I posted it.
Tell us about
I put it to my profile.
Seek for efficiency. How do you do it?
Well, I mean,
thinking.
I think with great difficulty. But you know, look, it's been a long time since there was a serious effort to reduce the size of government and to remove absurd regulations.
Yeah.
And you know, last time there was a really concerted effort on that front was Reagan in the early 80s. So we're 40 years away from a serious effort to remove regulations that don't serve the greater good and reduce the size of government. And I think it's just, if we don't do that, then what's happening is that we get regulations and laws accumulating every year until eventually everything's illegal. And that's why we can't get major infrastructure projects done in the United States. Like if you look at the absurdity of the California high-speed rail, I think they spent $7 billion and have a 1,600-foot segment that doesn't actually have rail in it. I mean, your tax dollars at work? I mean,
yeah, what are we doing?
That's an expense of 1,600 feet of concrete, you know? And I mean, I think it's like, if, you know, I realize sometimes I'm perhaps a little optimistic with schedules, but, you know, I mean, I wouldn't be doing the things I'm doing if I was, you know, not an optimist. But at the current trend, you know, California high-speed rail might finish sometime next century. Probably not.
We'll have teleportation by that time.
So. Yeah, exactly. We'll just have AI do everything at that point. So I think you really think of, you know, the United States and many countries, it's arguably worse than the EU, as being like Gulliver tied down by a million little strings. And like any one given regulation is not that bad, but you've got a million of them, and or millions actually. And then eventually just can't get anything done, and this is a massive tax on the consumer, on the people. It's just they don't realize that there's this massive tax in the form of irrational regulations. I'll give you a recent example that you know is just insane. Is that like SpaceX was fined by the EPA $140,000 for they claimed dumping potable water on the ground, drinking water. So, and we're like, this is at Starbase, and we're like, we're in a tropical thunderstorm region. That stuff comes from the sky all the time, and and there was no actual harm done. You know, it was just water to cool the launch pad during liftoff, and there's zero harm done. Like, and they agree, yes, there's zero harm done. And we're like, okay, so there's no harm done, and but you want us to pay a $140,000 fine? It's like, yes, because you don't have a permit. Okay, we didn't know there was a permit needed for zero harm fresh water being on the ground in a place where fresh water falls from the sky all the time.
Got it. Next to the ocean.
Next to the ocean.
Because there's a little bit of water there too.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it rains so much the roads are flooded. So we're like, you know, how does this make any sense?
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, we're not going to process any more of your applications for Starship launch, unless you pay this $140,000. So they just ransomed us, and we're like, okay, so we paid $140,000. But it's like, this is no good. I mean, at this rate, we're never going to get to Mars.
I mean, that's the confounding part here.
Yeah.
Is we're acting against our own self-interest. You know, when you look at, we do have to make, putting aside fresh water, but hey, you know, the rocket makes a lot of noise. So I'm certain there's some complaints about noise once in a while, but sometimes you want to have a party where you want to make progress, and there's a little bit of noise. Therefore, you know, we trade off a little bit of noise for massive progress or even fun. Yep. So, like, when did we stop being able to make those trade-offs? But talk about the difference between California and Texas, where you and I now reside. Texas, you were able to build the Gigafactory. I remember when you got the plot of land, and it seemed like it was less than 2 years when you had the party to open it.
Yeah. From start of construction to completion was 14 months. 14 months.
Is there anywhere on the planet that would go faster? Is like China faster than that?
China was 11 months.
Got it. So Texas, China, 11 and 14 months. California, how many months?
And just to give you a sense of size, the Tesla Gigafactory in China is 3 times the size of the Pentagon.
Which was the biggest building in America?
No, there are bigger buildings, but the Pentagon's a pretty big one.
Yeah, or it was the biggest.
In units of Pentagon, it's like 3.
Okay, 3 Pentagons and counting.
Yeah.
Got it.
In 14 months. Just the regulatory approvals in California would have taken 2 years.
Yeah.
So that's the issue.
Where do you think the regulation helps? Like, for the people that will say, we need some checks and balances. We can't have some, because for every good actor like you, there'll be a bad actor. So where's that line then? Yeah,
I mean, I have in sort of doing a sensible deregulation and reduction in the size of government is just like be very public about it and say, like, which of these rules do you, if the public is really excited about a rule and wants to keep it, we'll just keep it. Yeah. And here's the thing about the rules: if the rule is turns out to be a bad, we'll just put it right back. Okay, and then problem solved. It's like, it's easy to add rules, but we don't actually have a process for getting rid of them. That's the issue.
This is a really good example of the different the pragmatic approach that these guys bring to governance. We've been so I don't know, burdened down by this super ideological approach to government, where every single policy has to have an ideological justification and then has to correspond to fit some box of ideas. That's the motivation for it, and then we have this law there, and then it can never go away because trying to remove it is somehow a repudiation of the ideology. This is all just inefficient bullshit. And he's like, let's just take it, just get rid of it. And if it turns out, oh, that was actually good to have that, okay, we'll put it back in again. I'll take it. I'll take this approach to government.
There's no garbage collection rule.
When we were
again, there's your programmer approach. There's no garbage collection. We need a garbage collection division.
Watching you work, David and I and Antonio, in that first month at Twitter, which was all hands on deck, and you were doing zero-based budgeting, you really quickly got the costs under control. And then miraculously, everybody said this site will go down, and you added 50 more features. So maybe explain, because this is the first time.
There were so many articles like this is Twitter is dead forever. There's no way it could possibly even continue at all.
It was almost like the press was
like,
rooting for you to fail.
Let's write the obituary. Like, here's the obituary.
They're all saying their goodbyes on Twitter. Remember that?
Yeah.
They were all leaving and saying their goodbyes because the site was going to melt down.
Yeah, to totally fail and
all the journalists left.
Yeah.
Which is, if you ever want to like hang out with a bunch of hall monitors, oh my God, Threads is amazing. Every time I go over there and post, they're like, they're really triggered. But
yeah, I mean, if you like being condemned repeatedly, then for reasons that make no sense, then Threads is the way to go.
Yeah, it's really, it's the most miserable place on earth. If Disney's the happiest, this is the anti-Disney. Yeah. But if we were to go into government, you went into the Department of Education, or pick the department. You've worked with a lot of them, actually.
Sure.
You can't go in there in zero-based budget. Okay, we get it. But if you could just pair 2, 3, 4, 5% of those organizations, what kind of impact would that have?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Now notice here, JCal is just he is such a lol cow. She's like, okay, now obviously you can't go into zero-based budget, the federal government, you know. He's priming it. Elon's like, I don't know. We can't? How come? Can you make a case to me about why we can't? But notice how he responds to this question. JCal's like, just to like whittle away like 2 or 3%, you know? Like, yeah. Totally. This devious little punk. And notice Elon's response to this.
We need to do more than that, I think.
Ideally, but
yeah.
Compounding every year, 2 or 3% a year, I mean, it would be better than what's happening now.
Yeah, look, I think we've
Elon, yeah, that would be better than what's happening now. This happened multiple times where he keeps trying to seed this. Just do like 2 or 3% a year. That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? You 2 or 3% every year. Meanwhile, it's expanding. I think Elon goes into this. It's expanding vastly more than that.
If Trump wins, and obviously I suspect there are people with mixed feelings about whether that should happen, but we do have an opportunity to do kind of a once-in-a-lifetime deregulation and reduction in the size of government. Because the other thing, besides the regulations, America is also going bankrupt extremely quickly, and nobody seems to.
So here's the flip side of it. He's like, if we only cut 2 or 3%, the rate at which we're going bankrupt is vastly more than that. We need to innovate massively. We need to get tons of barriers out of the way and build really, really quickly. We're at an existential point.
Everyone seems to be sort of whistling past the graveyard on this one. But
they're all grabbing the silverware. Everyone's stuffing their pockets in the silverware before the Titanic sinks.
So then there's Friedberg, of course, the libertarian, who's like his concern is the corruption. There's the people in there that are personally enriching themselves, and Elon's like, yeah, sure, like whatever, sure, of course they are. But the bigger problem is he's not going to get bogged down in this more like kind of ideological thing. That's like an adjacent point. But the bigger point is the practical matter of the fact that we've got a ton of shit to build, and there's a ton of stuff in the way, and the situation's getting exponentially worse, exponentially faster.
The Defense Department budget is a very big budget. Okay, it's $1 trillion a year. DoD Intel, it's $1 trillion. And interest payments on the national debt just exceeded the Defense Department budget. They're over $1 trillion a year, just in interest, and rising. We're adding $1 trillion to our debt, which our kids and grandkids are going to have to pay somehow. Every 3 months. And then soon it's going to be every 2 months, and then every month. And then the only thing we'll be able to pay is interest. And if this, it's just, it's just like a person at scale that has racked up too much credit card debt. This does not have a good ending. And so we have to reduce the spending.
Let me ask one question, because I've brought this up a lot, and the counter-argument I hear, which I disagree with, but the counter-argument I hear from a lot of politicians is if we reduce spending, because right now if you add up federal, state, and local government spending, it's between 40 and 50% of GDP. So nearly half of our economy is supported by government spending, and nearly half of people in the United States are dependent directly or indirectly on government checks, and either through contractors that the government pays, or they're employed by a government entity. So if you go in and you take too hard an axe too fast, you will have significant contraction, job loss, and recession. What's the balancing act, Elon? Just thinking realistically, because I'm 100% on board with you. The next set of steps, however, assume Trump wins and you become the chief.
The libertarian is like, hell yeah, afuera, just fucking slash it.
Chief DOGE, DO, like double G. And I think the challenge is how quickly can we go in? How quickly can things change?
This little section here is funny because Friedberg is desperately trying to get his serious question out, and the shit posting instinct just takes over, and he has to try multiple times.
Like double G. And I think the challenge is how quickly can we go in? How quickly can things change? And without
I want that on my business card.
Yeah. without all the contraction and job loss. Yeah. So I guess how do you really address it when so much of the economy and so many people's jobs and livelihoods are dependent on government spending?
Well, I mean, I do think it's sort of it's a false dichotomy. It's not like no government spending is going to happen. You really have to say, like, is it the right level? And And just remember that any given person, if they are doing things in a less efficient organization versus a more efficient organization, their contribution to the economy, their net output of goods and services will reduce. You've got a couple of clear examples between East Germany and West Germany, North Korea and South Korea. North Korea, they're starving. South Korea, it's like amazing.
It's the future. The compounding effect of productivity gains. Yeah.
Yeah, it's night and day.
Yeah.
And so in the North Korea, you've got 100% government. In South Korea, you've got probably, 40% government. It's not zero. And yet you've got a standard of living that is probably 10 times higher in South Korea. At least, exactly. And then East and West Germany, in West Germany, you had, just thinking in terms of cars, you had BMW, Porsche, Audi, Mercedes, and East Germany, which is a random line on a map. The only car you could get was a Trabant, which is basically a lawnmower with a shell in it. It was extremely unsafe. There was a 20-year wait. So put your kid on the list as soon as they're conceived. And even then, only I think a quarter of people maybe got this lousy car. And it's the same. So that's just an interesting example of basically the same people, different operating system. And
there
it's
you
not
go.
like West Germany was some a capitalist heaven. It's quite socialist actually. So when you look, probably it was half government in West Germany and 100% government in East Germany. And again, it's sort of a 5 to, I'd call at least a 5 to 10x standard of living difference, and even qualitatively vastly better. And it's obviously, sometimes people have these, amazingly in this modern era, this debate as to which system is better. Well, I'll tell you which system is better. The one that doesn't need to build the wall to keep people in. Okay, that's how you can tell. Okay, it's a dead giveaway.
Spoiler alert.
Dead giveaway.
Are they climbing the wall
Dead
to get out or come in?
You have to build a barrier to keep people in. That is the bad system. It wasn't West Berlin that built the wall. Okay, they were like, anyone who wants to flee West Berlin, go ahead.
Speaking of walls,
so and if you look at sort of the flux of boats from Cuba, there's a large number of boats from Cuba, and there's a bunch of free boats that anyone can take to go back to Cuba.
Yeah. Plenty of seats.
There's hey, wow, an abandoned boat. I could use this boat to go to Cuba where they have communism. Awesome.
Yes.
And yet nobody picks up those boats and does it. Amazing.
Giving this a lot of thought.
Yeah.
Wait, so your point is jobs will be created. If we cut government spending in half, jobs will be created fast enough to make up for, just to count.
Yes, obviously, I'm not suggesting that people, had immediately tossed out with no severance and can't pay their mortgage. There needs to be some reasonable off-ramp where, so a reasonable off-ramp where, they're still, earning, they're still receiving money, but have a year or two to find jobs in the private sector, which they will find. And then they will be in a different operating system. Again, you can see the difference. East Germany was incorporated into West Germany. Living standards in East Germany rose dramatically.
In 4 years, if you could shrink the size of the government with Trump, what would be a good target? Just in terms of ballpark.
Are you trying to get me assassinated before this even happens?
No. Pick a low number.
There's that old phrase, go postal. There's they might.
Yeah.
On me.
So we'll keep the post office.
I'm going to need a hell of a security detail, guys.
Yes.
One of the most interesting comments in the entire stream to me. You trying to get me assassinated?
The sheer number of disgruntled workers, former government employees, is quite a scary number. I might not make it.
I was saying low digits every year for 4 years would be palatable. Yeah, and I like your idea of an
but the thing is that if it's not done, if you have a once in a lifetime or once in a generation opportunity, and you don't take serious action, and then you have 4 years to get it done. And then, if it doesn't get done, then...
How serious is Trump about this? You've talked to him about it, yeah?
Yeah, I think he is very serious about it.
Got it.
And no, I think actually the reality is that if we get rid of nonsense regulations and shift people from the government sector to the private sector, we will have immense prosperity, and I think we'll have a golden age in this country. It'll be fantastic.
Can we talk about SpaceX?
Listen to that applause. He multiple times there, J-Cal tries to be, you're going to do 2 or 3%, right? Just a couple percent, kind of tweak around the edges, get some of the worst stuff out of the way. And Elon, as comprehensively as he could, recognizing that he's talking to a friend in a formal event, he's like, no, we are not doing, there's a once in a generation opportunity. We are taking advantage of it. And he's thinking of this in terms of to even have the comment of federal workers coming after him, needing a bigger security detail. That in itself indicates that he's not thinking of this in terms of chop a little bit off. No, they're serious about this. And when he asks about Trump, he's like, how serious is Trump actually? Is he actually with this? And Elon's response was kind of like, yeah, like he's serious. Like he hadn't even considered having to address that point because from his conversations with Trump is deadly serious about this. He's not even thinking, Elon's not like, oh, well, he's just kind of doing this to get elected and then just going to chop 2 or 3%. He's like, no, this is going to be a serious haircut. Before we go to the last bit of it here, I just wanted to highlight this from Josh Hamm. He says, if the government just got out of the way of energy and manufacturing, then we could really grow out of this, especially combined with removing more roadblocks and government employees. And that's the vision right there. Get the roadblocks and government employees out of the way, the obstructionists to the wall, or on the other side of the wall, as the case may be, and then massive investments in energy and manufacturing. And Elon described how this is like a tax. All of this regulation, all of this obstructionism is ultimately a tax on the American people, particularly with energy. This is something Stormy gets into in the conversation with Jason that should drop tomorrow. Again, I'm going to say this as many times as I can. Go to the 2-Bit Podcast, subscribe, listen to the conversation with Jason and Stormy tomorrow. The most deflationary thing we could get is regulation removed from the energy sector because of increasing costs of energy affects everything downstream from that. The transportation of goods, the storage, the harvesting, the creation, the accumulation, all of this all depends on energy. So massively slashing energy costs, getting all the regulation and stuff out of the way, or as much of it as possible, would itself very quickly make things much more affordable. So we win on both sides. As things get cheaper and we get more productive and efficient simultaneously. All right, last thing here. Elon and Jason, this is where they really start having fun. Talking about them when they went on SNL. And if you have children listening to this, I don't know. It's vague enough that a kid might not pick up on it, but it also is, this is more R-rated.
All the projects you're working on, but people don't know you have a great sense of humor.
That's not true.
Oh, you do. People don't see it, but I would say I know for me, the funniest week of my life, or one of the funniest, was when you did SNL, and I got to tag along. Maybe you saw it. Maybe behind the scenes, like some of your funniest recollections of that chaotic, insane week when we laughed for 12 hours a day. It was a little terrorizing on the first couple of days, but.
Yeah, I was a bit worried at the beginning there because, frankly, nothing was funny.
Day one was rough.
Yeah, so, I mean...
It's like a rule, but can't you guys just say it? Just say the stuff that got on the cutting.
The funniest skits were the ones they didn't let you do.
That's what I'm saying. Can you just
There were
say
a couple of funny ones, that they didn't let
You can say it so that he doesn't get...
I mean, how much time do we have here?
Well, we should just do one or two, because it was... In your mind, which one do we regret most not getting on air?
You really want to hear that? I mean...
it was a little spicy. It was a little funny.
Okay.
Here we go.
All right, here we go, guys. All right. So one of the things that I think everyone's been sort of wondering this whole time is Saturday Night Live actually live? Like live, or do they have like a delay, or like just in case there's a wardrobe malfunction or something like that? Is it like a
truly live
5-second delay? What's really going on? But there's a way to test this.
Right. We came up with a way.
There's a way to test this, which is we don't tell them what's going on. As I walk on and say, "This is the script." I'll throw it on the ground. We're going to find out tonight, right now,
if Saturday
Night Live is actually live. And the way that we're going to do this is I'm going to take my cock out.
Her face. Look at all the guys. All the guys are like, ha ha ha. And she's like, oh my God.
This is the greatest pitch ever.
And if you see my cock, you know it's true. And if you don't, it's been a lie.
A lie. All these years.
All these years.
Now this is.
We're going to bust them right now.
And we're pitching this.
Yeah. So we're pitching this
on Zoom.
Yeah, we're pitching this on Zoom on like a Monday after we're we're like kind of hungover from the weekend. And we're like pitching this
We're
at
in
like
Miami.
noon.
Yeah.
And it's Jason's on. And
Mike and you.
yeah, and Mike, so essentially got like who my friends who I think are sort of quite funny. Jason's quite funny. I think like Jason's the closest thing to Cartman that exists in real life.
We have a joke going that he's Butters and I'm Cartman.
Yeah. So, and then my friend Mike's pretty funny too. So
these are like, there's, I think 3 billionaires. Or maybe 4 billionaires. I don't know what Friedberg and Sachs might not be a billionaire. I think Friedberg might be a billionaire. Chamath is a billionaire. Elon's a billionaire. And then J. Cal is like hundreds millionaire. This is what they're doing in their free time.
So we come in like guns blazing with like ideas and we didn't realize like actually that's not how it works and that's normally like actors and they just get told what to do and like
right.
What you mean we can't just like do funny things that we thought of? What?
They're watching this, and on the Zoom, they're aghast at Elon's pitch.
Yeah, it's silence. Like so, I'm like, and I was like, is this thing working? Is this?
Like, are we muted?
Is that mic on?
And they're like, we hear you.
Yeah, and then after a long silence, like Mike just says the word crickets.
Crickets, and they're not laughing.
And they're not even a chuckle. I'm like, what's going on?
And then Elon explains the punchline, which is
exactly. So there's more to it. Okay.
Yes.
That's just the beginning.
So Elon says.
So I'm like, so I say like I'm gonna reach down
into my pants.
Into my pants, and I stick my hand in my pants, and I'm gonna pull my cock out. And I tell this to the audience, and the audience is gonna be like, what?
Right.
And then I pull out a baby rooster.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, this is kind of PG, it's like that's not that bad. It's like this is my tiny cock, and and it's like, what do you think?
And so then,
and do you think it's a nice cock? I mean, I like it.
I'm like, and then Kate McKinnon walks out.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, oh no, but you haven't heard half of it. Kate McKinnon comes out.
Yeah.
And she says, Elon, I expected you would have a bigger cock.
Yeah. I was like, I don't mean to disappoint you, Kate, but but I hope you like it anyway. But Kate's got to come out with her cat, okay?
Right.
And
Kate says,
you can see where this is going. And I say, nice. Wow, that's a nice pussy you've got there, Kate. Wow, that's amazing. It looked a little wet. Was it raining outside?
And then.
Do you mind if I stroke your pussy? Is that cool? It's like, oh no, Elon. Actually, can I hold your cock? Of course, Kate. You definitely hold my cock. And then we exchanged, and I think just the audio version of this is pretty good.
Right.
It's just like, wow, I really like stroking your cock, and I was like,
and then Elon says, I'm really enjoying stroking your pussy.
Yes, of course, and so
they're looking at us like, oh my God, what have we done inviting these lunatics on the program?
Yeah, and they said like, well, it is Mother's Day.
It's Mother's Day. We might not want to go with this.
A lot of moms in the audience. And I'm like, well, that's a good point. Well,
fair.
It might be a bit uncomfortable for all the moms in the audience. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe they'll dig it.
Maybe they'll like it.
That was. That's the cold open that didn't make it. We didn't get that on the air. But we did fight for Doge.
Yes.
And we got Doge on the air.
I mean, there's a bunch of things that I said that were just not on the script. Like they have these like cue cards for what you're supposed to say, and I just didn't say it. I just went off the rails.
Yeah. They didn't see that coming.
Yeah, it's live.
Well, it's live. And so Elon wanted to do Doge. This is the other one. He wanted to do Doge on late night, and he says, "Hey, J. Cal, can you make sure?"
Oh yeah. So I wanted to do the Doge Father. Like you sort of redo the that scene from the Godfather. I mean, you kind of need the music to cue things up.
You bring me on my daughter's wedding. Listen, you asked for Doge.
Yeah, you got Marlon Brando.
And I give you Bitcoin, but you want Doge.
Exactly. You really got to set the mood. You have to have a tuxedo and this whole sort of dark office and the Doge. And you got to have like Marlon Brando.
Yeah.
I said, you come to me on this day of my Doge's wedding, and you ask me for your private keys. Are you even a friend? You call me the Godfather.
So
Buonasera.
So
that's potential.
That had great potential. So they come to me, and I'm talking to Colin and Jost, who's got a great sense of humor. And he's amazing. He loves Elon, and he's like, we can't do it because of the law and stuff like that. And,
The law?
The law and liability. So I said, it's okay. Elon called Comcast, and he put in an offer, and they just accepted it.
Yeah.
We just bought NBC, so it's fine.
Yeah.
And Colin Jost looks at me. I sold it so good, and he's like, you're serious? I'm like, yep, we own NBC now.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, well, that kind of changes things, doesn't it? I'm like, absolutely. We're a go on Doge.
Yeah.
And then he's like, you're fucking with me. And I'm like, I'm fucking with you.
Or are we?
Or are we? It was the greatest week of, and that like is like 2 of 10 stories.
Yeah, we'll
save the other 8.
Yeah.
But it was, and I was just so happy for you to see you have a great week of just joy and fun and letting go, because you were launching rockets, you're dealing with so much bullshit in your life. To have those moments, to share them and just laugh, it was just so great.
Yeah.
And more of those moments. I think we gotta get you back on SNL. Who wants him back on SNL one more time? All right, ladies and gentlemen, our bestie, Elon Musk.
When I started this last night, I did not think that I was going to be sitting down and watching Elon Musk give his Marlon Brando impression. Just what a time we live in. Andrew says, remember in 2016 when people were grabbing their pearls over Trump saying grab him by the pussy, and now Elon's just saying it on live TV. Such a fuck you to the faggy hall monitors. Hell yes. Oh, man. And look at the way the audience responds to him throughout the entire thing. All the cheering. Like, these people idolize Elon. And these aren't like quote unquote flyover country, the red-blooded Americans. These are people from deep within shitlib country. This is the significance of the Elon Trump marriage. It's brought on all of these people and allows someone like Elon, who they adore and idolize, to hear him delivering Trump's message to them. It's normalizing and mainstreaming sane politics. What a time we live in. All right. 2 hours, 18 minutes. All right, I got a few more things here. A couple of long posts from Trump allies, and then some to set us up for the debate tonight. I've got some Kamala Harris clips here. And we'll finish it with a funny Trump and Kamala one. First, Mike Davis, Viceroy, MRD Law, Article 3 Project, former Chief Counsel for Nominations, Senate Judiciary Committee, and law clerk for Justice Gorsuch. He's quoting from an NBC News article. Another Trump legal ally, Mike Davis, a former aide to Senator Chuck Grassley from Iowa, and Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch, has promoted the concept that a second Trump administration should rely on an acting attorney general, not a Senate-confirmed attorney general, to act on Trump's wishes more efficiently. Trump, during his first term, said, quote, "As you know, I like acting. It gives you great flexibility." Davis has also said he would, quote, "rain hell on Washington, D.C., close quote, if he became attorney general, and would, quote, "bring indictments," end quote, against President Joe Biden and members of his family, former President Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and George Soros, a billionaire and major Democratic donor. Davis told NBC News that he does not expect he would fill the role of acting attorney general, but that another Trump ally could. Remember, I shared the clips from Kash Patel talking to Sean Ryan on the Sean Ryan Show. He's another rumored candidate for attorney general. And I like this loophole, acting attorney general. He suggested that a second Trump DOJ could convene grand juries and seek indictments within weeks of taking office, noting that private citizens could be preparing possible referrals that the DOJ could use against people whom Trump supporters accused of waging, quote, lawfare against the former president. Private citizens could, I don't know, maybe it's possible. It's theoretically conceivable that private citizens could be preparing possible referrals that the DOJ could use against people whom Trump supporters accused of waging lawfare against the former president. Davis said these lawfare Democrats should lawyer up and be prepared for accountability on January 20 at 12:01 p.m. Davis, here's an interesting little schizo drop for you. Apparently, when the president officially, when the president takes the oath of office is legally significant because it's supposed to be at noon. So the president's term runs from noon on Inauguration Day to noon on Inauguration Day. And going back for, I don't know how many presidents, like at least a dozen, it's recorded the actual time when they took the oath of office. And there was all sorts of funky stuff that happened around Joe Biden's inauguration. Very weird progression of ceremonies. And one thing that was interesting is that Joe Biden took the oath of office at 11:50 something. He's the only president in like recorded memory here who has done that. Every other president, it was at 12 or at 12:01 or 12:03. Joe Biden took it at I was like 11:52 or 11:57 or something like that. It's kind of interesting. Continuing here, Davis said that the department could seek an indictment of anyone for whom, quote, there is probable cause that they participated in a criminal conspiracy, end quote, making the case that the department under Attorney General Merrick Garland's tenure took a, quote, very aggressive, broad view with their lawfare, end quote, against Trump, his allies, and supporters like those charged in the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Quote, these partisan Democrat plaintiffs, prosecutors, outside lawyers, court witnesses, judges, and other lawfare activists in Albany, Atlanta, D.C., New York City, Palm Beach, and Phoenix should all lawyer up, Davis said. At a minimum, they are fact witnesses, if not co-conspirators, in this blatant criminal conspiracy, end quote. Davis said that the indictment could be brought in federal court in Fort Pierce, Florida, where Trump could potentially find a more favorable jury pool, and because that is near where the FBI executed a search of Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. So, something to maybe keep in the back of your mind going forward. What I like to see is our guys becoming much more pragmatic and realpolitik in their approach to the managerial bureaucracies that we have. Let's start using this stuff to our advantage. For example, bringing the indictment in Fort Pierce, Florida, where Trump could potentially find a more favorable jury pool. None of this like conservative, like, oh, everything has to be above board and it has to be impartial and unbiased and fuck you guys, get out of the way. Let the professionals go to work.
And Don McGann are all the way over here on the right. What is on the other side?
There's an individual by the name of Mike Davis, and I was talking to Mike Davis earlier today. He used to be a Grassley aide. He is somebody who is running a conservative legal group that is aligned with Donald Trump, very close with the likes of Steve Bannon and others. Don Jr. has floated him openly as...
Don Jr., who picked J.D. Vance, is still nominating people?
He is openly acting attorney general, somebody that might execute on what would be those vast indictments. I was talking with Mike Davis earlier. He said he doesn't believe he could constitutionally be the acting attorney general, but there are individuals who could. And Mike Davis told me that, as an example, that Democrats need to be prepared for, again, I keep coming to this conspiracy charge that could come out of Fort Pierce because, as Mike Davis tells me, you had the search warrant execution by the FBI at Mar-a-Lago, which Donald Trump has claimed was unlawful. You could go and have somebody as an acting attorney general go and seek this indictment out of Fort Pierce, where you could potentially have a more favorable jury pool, favorable to Donald Trump. And in that conspiracy indictment, you could loop in the likes of Fani Willis, Matthew Colangelo, Alvin Bragg. Really, when I was talking to a legal ethics professor out of NYU a few moments ago, he told me it doesn't take much to get an indictment, as we know, right? The old saying, a ham sandwich. And if they truly indeed want to go through with this, there's little barriers, because if Donald Trump were to implement the executive order in Schedule F that he did at the very end of his first administration, that Joe Biden rescinded on day one, they would be able to go and fire a vast number of career officials and turn those into political appointment positions. So while you may have some career DOJ officials who would not want to do Donald Trump's bidding, you could argue Donald Trump could very well in those first months come in, move those people out from
the career DOJ officials who don't want to obey a lawful order from the commander-in-chief. Okay, they can go.
Career officials, turn them into political appointment positions, and it's not that hard to see how indictments come there soon after.
Donald Trump turning the...
Oh, Nicole Wallace is such a hag.
Donald Trump turning the DOJ into a political weapon? Ah.
That's right. That's exactly what's going to happen. Stephen Miller. He has been just bitch-slapping Mark Cuban around the internet for the last several days. Mark Cuban, thanks to the immigration details, just as you, the immigration czar, has espoused before, which leads to a question. Have you done any modeling of the financial impact of deporting 20 million people? Are you concerned that when he learns that the USA could lose 10 million plus customers and taxpayers, he will flip when he sees a decline in GDP? Or when he learns that he would be the first president in a long time to intentionally implement programs that will reduce our GDP? What about the societal impact? Have you done any research or surveys on how people will respond when there is a stop and deport or knock and deport policy? Or will you take another approach? Who do you expect to execute your deportation plan? On tariffs-related talks, can you explain how he would tax foreign nations? He hasn't been able to. Does he plan on sending a bill to China? Thanks for taking the time to answer my questions. It's appreciated. Now I'm going to read you Stephen Miller's response. But Mark Cuban doesn't deserve a response. Mark Cuban deserves to be deported as well. That's the answer. The answer is very nice. Please face the wall. For handcuffs, of course. Mark, line go up, Chabaninsky. Yes. Newsflash, Mark. We don't give a shit. Exactly. Kate, journals will face the wall next in timeout because they're children. Yeah. So here's Stephen Miller's response. First off, I'm just an aide who has had the honor of working for America's greatest president and witnessed his unparalleled vision and unrivaled leadership. As to your question, growing GDP via mass third world migration makes everyone in America poorer, except those who profit from cheap labor. Per capita GDP plummets. It is a vast wealth transfer from U.S. workers to foreign workers and the companies who employ them, and to migrants on welfare and public support. If America annexed Haiti tomorrow, it would increase our GDP by increasing our population, but would make the average American poorer and the average wage smaller. And mass low-wage migration cruelly depletes the resources and safety net upon which American families, children, and seniors alike rely. It is the most regressive economic policy. Mass migration is a grave moral betrayal of the social contract that binds all citizens to each other and binds the government to its citizens. This is to say nothing of the catastrophic results for public safety and human lives. Harris's illegals have committed unfathomably depraved acts of rape, mutilation, torture, and murder. How many more Americans must suffer and die in the name of cheap foreign labor and the Democrats' quest for political power? The Harris plan to grow the GDP is clearly to resettle the third world in all 50 states. The Trump plan is to shut the deport, shut the border, deport the illegals, and make America into the economic and manufacturing powerhouse of the world. I'll let Americans judge which plan they prefer for their families, neighbors, and communities. Lastly, as to tariffs, of course foreign countries are the ones who pay the tariffs, which is why foreign heads of state try so mightily to prevent tariffs from being applied when they cheat. The simplest example here is when a country dumps subsidized goods, say steel, in our market. A tariff on that country either A, causes them to abandon product dumping and abide by the rules, or B, further subsidize its own industry and at great cost to the government. Either way, the U.S. taxpayer collects the revenue from the tariff. Again, protective tariffs built America. Low taxes on domestic industry plus tariffs on foreign industry equals American manufacturing renaissance. We sustain ourselves and supply the world. Shout out to Stephen Miller. One of the greatest examples of like the divergence between physiognomy and politics. Looking at him, I wouldn't really think he's a friend. Listening to him, he definitely is. So here's an interesting clip. Aaron Burnett at CNN in shock about what Kamala Harris supported.
So in 2019, in what K-File found, she said she would cut funding to ICE, writing, quote, "Our immigrant detention system is out of control, and I believe we must end the unfair incarceration of thousands of individuals, families, and children. I was one of the first senators after President Trump was elected to advocate for a decrease in funding to ICE." Well, now, of course, she's touting the Biden administration's executive order to crack down on the border. K-File's Andrew Kaczynski joins me now. Andrew, that's pretty incredible on its own when you're talking about...
Andrew's got to go, too.
...what you found here on ICE. What else did you find?
Yeah, and this was a questionnaire that she filled out for the ACLU, and this questionnaire is really an interesting snapshot in time of that 2019 Democratic primary. Kamala Harris was trying to get to the left of Bernie Sanders. She was trying to get to the left of Elizabeth Warren. You really see that in a lot of these answers, and I want to walk our viewers through a little bit of what she said. Let's just take immigration and look at what she said here. She said on immigration, she made this open-ended pledge to end immigrant detention. She said she supported taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants. She also said she supported
taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants. She actually said she supported that.
She both wrote and answered in the affirmative when she was asked this. And she said she also supported it for federal prisoners. Now, she also pledged to slash immigration detention by 50%, close all family and private facilities, and decrease funding for ICE, and then end ICE detainers with local law enforcement.
I mean, these are things that, you know, it would be hard to think that you would come up with taxpayer funding gender transitions for detained migrants, and yet this, as you say, written and verbally.
Bennett's Phylactery had the perfect response to this. He says, I just don't buy that they would do this to a candidate that they intended to install in a coup. I don't know what more to say about it. This is not circling the wagons around the anointed one. And that was like a gut reaction from her, too, it sounded like. She's like, wait, was she actually advocated this? And first of all, like, she doesn't know this. She's highlighting this. So either it's a gut response from her because she didn't know it, or she's highlighting it because of how crazy it is. She's like, I don't think you can actually do that. Like, taxpayer-funded gender reassignment surgeries for migrants. Andrew says Musk wants to replace the immigrants with AI and robots. Immigrants are his competition. Correct. Ditto the other Silicon Valley Mafia members. Yes. I remember when I first started talking about this, a lot of people would give me this response like, oh no, they're big businessmen. They want infinity migrants. They want them for cheap labor. Yeah, you're telling me you don't understand. Like, you've got like a one-dimensional view of the world. These particular guys definitely don't want a migrant underclass. They want efficiency. They want high-skilled labor. Low-skilled labor doesn't do anything for them. Low-skilled labor shits on their sidewalks that they walk around on. When someone responds that way, it's like, okay, I can tell you got your talking points from, I don't know, like Mark Levin or something, and you just, you gotta update your operating system. Yeah, automation is cheap labor. If anything, the risk that these guys would pose to us would be automating our jobs away so we don't have those jobs anymore. But that means it reframes the issue where now your job is to be the one automating. The automators, the ones managing the automation technology, are always going to be in demand. And they're going to be very well paid. And as a lot of the menial stuff gets automated, it opens up a new domain of new and different things that we can step into. New industries will be created. Frank Luntz. Kamala Harris had planned to object, fact-check, and directly question Donald Trump while he was speaking during their debate last week. But now, with rules just finalized to mute the candidates when their opponent speaks, Harris advisors are scrambling to rewrite their playbook. From Politico. Harris team worried she'll be handcuffed by debate rules set by Biden. Even some Democrats dismiss her griping as gamesmanship, but the mic rules are changing her strategy. Kamala Harris had planned, okay, I already read that part. Harris and her team, holed up in Pittsburgh for a multi-day debate camp, wanted unmuted microphones so that the vice president could lean on her prosecutorial background, confronting the former president the same way she laced into some of Trump's Supreme Court nominees and cabinet members during Senate hearings. They wanted the clip of, I'm speaking. Someone, I think it was Keith Rabois, retweeted, it might have been Frank Luntz, yesterday or today. He said, if Harris tries to pull that one, then the response from Trump should be, yeah, that's all you're doing is you're just talking and you're not actually doing anything. Instead, 4 Harris campaign officials argued that she will be handcuffed by the rules, which were negotiated by President Joe Biden's team earlier this summer. Isn't this interesting? So Joe Biden's team negotiated these rules. They wanted the mics to be muted, which really worked against them because Trump just, okay, I'm just going to sit here and I'm not going to interject. There's the people who are turned off by him bullying or whatever, and having him bullying a feeble old man probably would have looked bad, and it left Biden hanging. And he talked his way into oblivion. However, with Kamala, now all of a sudden they're like, well, wait a second. No. We don't want those rules. We want these other rules. We want him to talk over her. Because then she can present herself as this aggrieved victim as opposed to this malevolent shrew. Trump's worst moments in the debates are when he gets upset and snaps, said an aide to Harris in her 2020 presidential campaign, granted anonymity to speak freely, and they have neutered that. I don't know. You'd be in jail The line of a generation. Some Democrats privately dismissed the Harris campaign's frustration as largely gamesmanship and expectation setting around Tuesday's debate in Philadelphia. Yeah, it's like you set up the terms of the debate and then, it's like you're gonna have a game and you set up the terms of the game and someone comes into it and they're complaining about what the rules are. Like, oh yeah, fine, I guess I'll go along with the rules, but here's all the things that are bad about them. You know that person's not confident about winning. This is impotent signaling. But others say the rule change and her limited experience in national general election debates and interviews since becoming her party's nominee could affect Harris's debate performance. Quote, she could get thrown off by the muted mics, so putting their frustration about the mics out there, they're preparing for that possibility, said one national Democratic strategist, granted anonymity to speak candidly. Or they've also got a set piece ready to go where Harris could turn to the camera and say, for all those who can't hear it, Donald Trump is trying to yell over me. How many of you have been in a meeting where you get talked over? David Axelrod, who advised Barack Obama's presidential campaigns, was one of several Democratic operatives who noted that Harris's complaints about the muted microphones also could serve to get into Trump's head. Oh yeah, I'm sure that's what's going to happen. What the Harris team is saying is that Trump's campaign does not trust him to control himself, Axelrod said. I don't think Trump likes to be depicted as someone being handled, so I do think there's an element of trying to psych out their side too. This is coping. Trump senior advisor Jason Miller said the campaign is glad that Harris's team has finally accepted the already agreed upon rules of the debate that they wrote in the first place, adding, Americans want to hear both candidates present their competing visions to the voters unburdened by what has been. No notes, no sitting down, no advanced copies of the question. Even as the Harris campaign looks to reorient their candidate to debate rules agreed to when Biden was the nominee, there's ongoing frustration among some of her aides that the vice president is inheriting them, according to one person familiar with the Harris team's thinking. Aww. You mean when you executed your coup, it's backfiring on you? That's because they view her as a stronger debater than Biden, whose debacle on stage in June ultimately led to his withdrawal from the race. So what is it? Is it that she's inexperienced, has never done this, or she's a stronger debater? Which one? It was a bad set of rules for someone who needed to be protected, who never should have been on the debate stage, the National Democratic strategist added, and now they're stuck with it. In many ways, Harris has benefited from Biden's political inheritance. Largely undefined herself, the vice president has mostly adopted the administration's record and legislative achievements as her own. Blah, 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 blah. In the run-up to the debate next Tuesday, Harris's team fought hard, publicly and privately, to change the muted microphones rule that Biden's top aides demanded months ago, ultimately to no avail. Got two more clips here. Kamala Harris claimed that Donald Trump was an unserious person. Listen to this. So here's your first. These last two clips are previews of what we're going to see tonight, as I'm predicting. Here's number one.
We talked about those lids. So here's what I said to her. Here's what I said to her. So you know how those lids are, because this is, well, I'm just going to speak, okay? So this is it. So you know how those lids on those Starbucks cups, they're white, right? And so if you wear lipstick, they get all over the lid. And so then I find myself in meetings if I'm the only woman, and that's kind of, and so I keep taking the lid off and having my cup out so that I don't have that big lipstick mark on the lid. So I said, can we do something about the color of the lid? So that was that conversation.
What a fucking psychopath. Why not? Yes. Like, imagine the world you'd have to live in to be like, hey, Starbucks, can you change the color of your lids? Because I'm tired of getting lipstick on my lids in my meetings. What a fucking lunatic. The Seinfeld credits rolling over this was funny. Oh my God, I didn't see that. Yeah, you could just not wear lipstick. And also, like, okay, so the lipstick gets on the lid. If you take the lid off, the lipstick gets on the rim. I'm not gonna debate the logic of it. He says Putin and Xi are on their knees praying every single day that Kamala Harris wins after weeks of vote counting after Election Day. Is this interesting? I don't remember if I said this on the show here. I said it to some other people. I have all these conversations, and I don't remember where I'm having them all. But I think it's interesting that that Putin came out and endorsed Kamala. Because kind of reasoning through this, number one, he doesn't have to say anything. Obviously, he's trolling. But why is he trolling? And in this way? Because endorsing Kamala doesn't do anything for Kamala. It's not like people can be like, oh, Putin endorsed her. It makes her more popular. Him endorsing Trump would absolutely give them ammo to use against him. So he endorses Kamala. And I'm reminded of the conversation that he had with Tucker, and he talked about his relationship to these different presidential administrations and how under Biden, it's like, I don't even remember the last time I talked to him. There's like, I can't even get a hold of anyone. There's nobody I can talk to. I just get the lackeys. It's like, I call and I get the secretary, which is a massive show of disrespect. You imagine like one CEO trying to get a hold of another CEO and he's just getting screened by the secretary. No CEO wants to sit on the phone with the secretary. But he doesn't have the cell phone for the other one, so he's got to go through the switchboard. I wonder. I think that Putin would prefer Trump, even if Trump would be harsher on him and would inhibit his advances. I think that Putin probably recognizes the existential threat that is the insane shit libbery. And he would trade being less free to do what he wants for actually having a person he respects that he can have a conversation with. All right. Last one. So the debate, I'll say this again. The debate's happening 8 p.m. Central tonight. I will be in the King Pill Discord, voice chat. I'll be live streaming my Twitter timeline as I scroll through it and listen to the debate. So if you would like to join, we did this for the Elon Trump Spaces conversation, and it was a lot of fun. So I'll be in there around 8 p.m. tonight for the debate. You guys can pull it up and watch one of the streams somewhere, and then I'll just be streaming my my Twitter timeline. You can watch me as I interact with people there and give my commentary as we go. So go to kingpill.com, sign up. The voice chat will be available to everyone who's in there. So just sign up there, kingpill.com, and that also helps us keep doing what we're doing here at King Pilled, and it goes toward funding some of the other projects that are coming soon. There's going to be a big one. There is a big one coming, and I really I want to be able to tease more of it, but I can't. We need to keep it under lock and key for a little bit longer. But some of you out there know about it. I've talked to some of you personally, and you know what's coming. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm so excited about it. So if you'd like to support that to be determined project and everything else that we're doing here, so I can keep doing the Astrolabe every day, then the best way you could support the show is the King Pill Discord, kingpill.com to sign up. Go to buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled. You can throw some cheddar that way, or you can send a super chat to become a channel member here on YouTube. Those are the best ways to support us for now. I don't really have a prediction for the debate. I'm going in open-minded, looking forward to the scene. Patchwork, it's going to be on ABC, but I'm sure it'll be streaming in a bunch of different places on YouTube, and I'm sure someone will stream it on Twitter. Yeah, I don't have a prediction for it really. I think it could go all sorts of different directions, but I know it's going to be very entertaining. And I stumbled across what I think is probably the best preview for it. So I'm going to play this, and then we'll leave you guys with Hulk.
风随烟马飞回，我为随风背。
河对面的三擂台，今天在不在？
那年为马来到了你的白毡房，我曾看到你看着多么热，经过你把歌唱。
单纯的相逢，平凡的晚上，我就在那个时候啊，傻傻的等到了天亮。
月亮坐着你枕头上的羽毛，亲吻着晚风飘啊飘，飘到了我的心上。
流行机里还传来白杨情什么 ？Alexander 的面包房，列巴出炉了吗？
男人我 好像是舌尖上的无意无事呀。你让忘记天涯的孩子啊，门中回家。
I don't understand the Chinese. They're a mystery to me, but I'm happy to view them from afar.
在水乡，这让我想起儿子和他心爱的弹弓茶。
湖蓝色的远墙，我生命里的摇落。我的妈妈在哪里给我的爱，叫我永生不忘吗？
心中有个地方，刻进了你的名字。草原和古月季花香，都是我的歌。
儿时离开你，正芳花开时，不及往事了啦婆婆，我却忘不了苹果香。不及往事远了模糊，我却忘不了苹果香。
抖音。
Oh man, the live chat on the Astrolabe is the best thing on the planet. All right, I will be as soon as I'm done here. As soon as we watch Hulk, I'm going to be posting the Massa thread with all of the Massa thread. Maybe I should start calling it the Massa thread with all the links and clips and everything that we went through today. So go follow me on Twitter at RealKingPilled. You can see that if you want to share these with your friends, or you want to watch them or read them in more detail. But for now, until I see you guys in the King Pill Discord this evening for the debate, kingpill.com. Until then, appreciate you guys. Thank you for showing up. I'll see you tomorrow. And I leave you with Hulk. Wait, hold on. Hulk.
They're my hero. And they tried to kill the next President of the United States. Enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania